You are Q5.
Okay, I moved closer to the microphone. Well, welcome everybody. Great to see a nice turnout, and we'll get through the club business and then move on to the main feast here. Oops, that didn't work. Let's try again. Okay, not getting. Let me try the right arrow. Oh, there we go. Okay, so first we're going to do some introductions and just shout out your call sign at the right time. I keep trying to think of new ways to organize this, and I'm running out of ideas, as you can tell. So this time, I've broken it down by your favorite band or whatever band you feel like designating as your favorite band for the purpose of this. So when you hear your band, or if you want to wait till the end and because you really can't make up your mind, that's fine. Shout out your call or name and call, whatever you want. And I won't acknowledge everybody. We'll just plow forwards here. So who loves 160 meters?
K6MR.
XRO.
WA6HHQ.
K2 Radio Denmark.
Okay.
November Tango 6 Victor.
Kilo 6 Mike.
K6W.
Norway 6 X-ray and
SRZ.
Wow.
N0KQ.
Okay, moving on to 80 meters. I'll take that one. WD6T. I just got my DXCC there, so I'm happy.
Alpha Echo 6 Juliet Victor, but not on sideband.
AG6AO.
Alpha Echo 6 Yankee, but I don't really like 80 meters.
N6RO used to like 80.
All right, 40 meters.
Walt N6XG.
E6XX.
Whiskey Tango 6 Kilo.
W6IFN.
King Henry 6 Tango United.
Whiskey Oscar 6 Whiskey.
N6 Kilo Tango.
Looking forward to 40 meters soon. Kilo 6 Golf Hotel Alpha.
Kilo 6 Lima Radio Norway.
Whiskey 6 Sugar Charlie.
Okay, 20 meters.
Norway Delta 2 Tango.
Kilo 6 Kilo Mike.
Alpha Japan 6 Victor.
Kilo 6 Alpha Whiskey.
November Sierra 6 Tango.
Alpha India 6 Juliet Zulu.
Alpha Fox 6 Sierra Alpha.
Okay, 15.
6 Tango Victor.
N6 Whiskey Mike.
Whiskey Delta 0 Tango.
Pete Kilo 6 Tango Juliet.
Okay, 10 meters.
Papa Japan 4 Kilo.
Whiskey 9 Kilo November.
November 7 Mike Hotel.
Okay, how about VHF and up?
Alpha Foxtrot 6 Romeo Tango.
Whiskey 6 Tango Charlie Capone.
That was a double. Go ahead again.
Yeah, K6SRZ. I like 6 meters, but not for contesting.
Okay, now speaking of not for contesting, how about work bands?
What are they?
NIS 6 W6XU.
All right, and how about the none of the above, or all of the above, I mean?
Kilo Echo 8 Fox Tango.
Kilo X-ray 7 Mike.
Kilo Bravo 0 Alpha.
Kilo 6 Whiskey Victor.
Oh, okay. Well, it's nice to hear some visitors and some familiar calls from afar. So thanks for joining us. So here's what we're going to do. I'm going to make a few remarks and then turn it over to Bill for a bit. And then Gary will talk a little bit about the awards and the 50th anniversary swag. And then we'll move on to our main presentation. So I just thought I'd talk a bit about how you can get the most out of the club. And here's what I suggest. First of all, read the jug. It's we put a lot of work into it every month, and there's a lot of good stuff in there. If you're not already subscribed to the Reflector, please do that. And if it's overwhelming to get the emails, you can just put it in the mode where you just log in every now and then and scan through the titles of each message and look for threads that might be of interest. And then it's not so doesn't invade your email box so much. Of course, participate in contests, especially the focus contests. And we just had a great turnout for the WPX RIDI, which Bill talked about. Moving on, submit to 3830. Most people do that, but it really helps, first of all, to give us an idea of who's on the air. And second of all, it's nice to quickly see who's on and when, et cetera. And then very important, provide some feedback. So, you know, we really want to hear from the members, like what's bothering you, what you like, what you think should be different, what you would like to, where you'd like to see the club go. Do you want to see it expand its area of membership? Do you want to see it stay focused the way it is? Do you know, whatever it is, if you have ideas, you know, send them to me or any of the board members, and I will share them with the rest of the board. Also volunteer. So we can't do it all ourselves. And especially if you have some idea about what you want to do, let us know, and it would be really helpful. And basically it's your club. It's not the officers or the board. It's our club. And so let's try to make it what we wanted to make it. And that's my spiel. So turning it over to Bill.
Sure. Well, hey, everybody. First of all, thank you for everybody who got on in WPX this last weekend, because at least as of this afternoon, I believe we're up to 48 logs, which is a little more than a third more than we had last year, which is looking good for us. I haven't quite uploaded mine yet, but I'll do that as quickly as I can here. I've just been busy with work stuff and went right down to the bench right after the contest and started working on the next contest, which is next weekend, which is AWRL DXCW and sideband. I'm sure it's not exactly a focus contest for NCCC, but I will say that I know a lot of you are going to be in there, and I will not be an exception. And the N6RO team's planning a pretty big appearance, and you know, that's just a really good contest to get on and work a lot of DXCCs with CW. Same with sideband a month from then. But what I'd like you to save your energy up for, though, are two things. One, the final NAQP RIDI, which I believe it's at the end of February or the beginning of March. It's one of those two. It's like right there. And then the two WPXs that are left. So we have sideband and we have CW. And of course, we've been trying to focus on those as a club as much as possible. And you know, one of the things that we're doing as a board, we're actually going to start sponsoring some Zone 3 plaques just for, you know, top multi-op, top single op for you know, in our own territory. So I would encourage you to make your operating plans now and see how quickly you'll see how many people we can get on the air for WPX, because I think WPX is going to be a hallmark for the NCCC going forward. We're going to try to really ratchet that up over. Oh yeah, Tom just sent me. It's the NAQP RIDI is the end of February. I don't have a calendar in front of me, so I should have done that. Anyway, so thank you, everybody. And again, don't forget to submit your log for WPX. And thank you very much. Oh, we hadn't even had a slide for this. Okay, so one other thing, Gary will talk about it in a moment, but the KB competition last contest is NAQP Winter RIDI. And well, DX this upcoming weekend, and then it starts over for the beginning of AWRL DX sideband. So that's the that is the KB competition. Hope everybody's had a good time. Okay. Is there anything else you wanted to? Oh yeah, we have an anniversary update, 50th anniversary update from Gary, NA60.
Okay,
Let me go ahead.
thanks, Bill. Very briefly, what we're going to do for the 50th anniversary, we're reintroducing NCCC shirts, logoed shirts, and jackets. It's going to be thanks to ENW6TCP. We're setting up a store in through Land's End, and you'll be able to place the logo on a shirt or jacket of your choice, including some choices of colors. There'll be an email blast about that in a week or so, as soon as we get that thing established and checked out. Let's see, Bill, I need to share my screen.
Go for it. You should be good to go there.
It's gonna be multiple. There we go.
What's going on?
Okay, get this up. Okay, so here's just a briefing on the KB Awards. The next version of this starts on March 1st. I'll go through this fairly quickly. Most of you are fairly familiar with this. This is our intra-club competition. We've been running this will be going the 5th year now. Very broad-based, rewards all modes and especially active contesters. Currently includes points from 29 different contests. That'll be going up to 30 here directly. The contest year starts and ends on March 1st. So as Bill said, there's only a couple left in the competition. We're just about down to the wire here. And it uses all your claimed scores that you post at 3830. You don't have to assign it to NCCC or anything. It doesn't matter. We go through the roster and we find anybody who's a member of NCCC, regardless of whose auspices you're under. Even if you go operate at some other station on the other side of the world, we will find you. But it does have to be in 3830. So each contest has its own multiplier. Some are more valuable than others. Things that don't generate many points have a big mult. And then the total score that you get is the sum of all these scaled contest scores multiplied by the number of contests. So it kind of grows exponentially. You tend to get into the gigapoint range after a while. And we have 4 brackets. The idea here is to help separate the big guns from the pea shooters. So each bracket has its own independent set of awards. And that's really kind of helped level the playing field. And your bracket is determined by your overall rank at the end of the previous contest year. So if you have a very good year, you'll be bumped up. And if you have a very bad year, you'll be bumped back down for the following year. So you can game the system. You know, if you want to win every other year, you take the year off. Next year, you come in and blast your way up to the top. The awards will be presented at the April meeting. There's plaques for the top 3 in each bracket, and then some certificates, and also some special endorsements for things like a biggest move up in rank or the biggest increase in the number of contests. The idea is to kind of take notice of people who've actually tried to become more active. So the updated contest list, we're kind of holding it, roughly constant. There's no big changes this time. It's going to be 30 contests total. The list came from 3 sources. We have some focus contests and things that the club is really intensely interested in. You want to make sure those are in there. There's some that are owned by, essentially owned or sponsored by NCCC, such as California QSO Party and the weekly sprints. And then we had some open voting by the members to help choose some of the rest and see where the emphasis was. I also looked at the overall activity on a lot of these contests. So basically, we ended up with pretty much the same as last year, but we had worldwide digi, and there's a lot of popular support for that, especially from the guys with the small stations who've come to enjoy this. I also adjust the multipliers each year. So the way it works is that if you take the average score that a club member got in any contest, it'll produce an equal number of points. So if the average guy operates every contest, he'll get what works out to roughly 1 million points for each one. So it's kind of a fine tuning I do each year. And this is an eye chart here, just listing all the contests and the multipliers and stuff. And you can see some of them have pretty high multipliers. Like a sprint, you tend not to get a giant score, so we have a big mult on that, or similar for VHF contest. And something like WPX, you tend to turn in a big score, and it itself grows sort of exponentially, so it has a low multiplier. Now, all this will always be up on the NCCC webpage. There's an awards page there, and that's where the rules, including these contests, all the current standings, all that's right there. And I want to notice we do try to kind of level things out as best we can here in terms of the contest thing. Some of them, obviously, like a QSO party or something like that, would include multiple modes. But anyway, regardless of what mode you're interested in, we try to cover all our bases there. How to improve your standing? The main thing is to participate, and you've got to get your scores up on 3830. That's number one. Watch those multipliers. Some contests are easier than others to get big scores on. Try a new mode. Try BHF if you haven't done that. Like get on 6 meters, BHF contest. Make sure you get on 10. Put up something for 160. Try the sprints. That's another one. It doesn't take very long to get a lot of points there. Join a multi-op. The score is split among the operators. Or let someone else use your station. You get 25% of the points just for letting them operate, even if you don't. But you can operate too. So make it happen. That's what this is all about. And get in there and score some big points. All right, that's it for this presentation. And on with the big show.
All right, Eric.
Sorry, weren't you going to talk about the shirts?
He did.
I thought. Oh, okay. I thought you were going to show something.
Yeah. I don't actually have anything to show. Basically, we're going to try to end up with a choice of 2 logos. One is just NCCC, and you'll be able to have your like your name and your call underneath as a monogram, whatever you want there. And I hope to also have one that has NCCC with 50 years above it. It's kind of celebrating our 50th anniversary.
Okay, sounds good. And yeah, you'll be able to just go on our website and pick it out yourself, and it'll be there, not just for some limited amount of time. You can do it anytime, right?
That's right. But this will be sort of a permanent store, and we can actually change the logos. We can change the selection of merchandise and things like that. So basically, you just go and buy it yourself anytime you want to. You don't have to wait until there's a bunch of orders piled up, or worry about getting the wrong size. You order exactly what you want.
Right, and it's shipped directly to you.
Correct.
Okay, thanks, Gary. So I'm going to introduce our main speaker today. Lots of you know him already, of course. Eric Swartz, WA6HHQ. He's the COO of Elecraft and the co-designer of the K4, the K3S, the K2, and other transceivers, and the co-founder of Elecraft in 1998 with Wayne Burdick, N6KR. He's been licensed for 50 years, and it says he credits his early interest in ham radio with leading him to a career in electronic design and management. He received his BS in engineering and applied science from Yale and has been involved in a number of successful startups in Silicon Valley. Were you at Interval? Is that one of the ones? Or my
no, that wasn't me. That was Trey. Interval. Wait, what's Interval Corporation? Who was that? That was.
Okay, if I
no,
got it.
I don't think it was me.
Okay, never mind then. And of course, Elecraft is local, which is great. I work about a half hour away from it, or at least I did until I was working from home all the time. Prior to Elecraft, Eric was co-founder and president of VariSys, a test equipment manufacturer of high-performance protocol analyzers for computer and mass storage market. Wayne and Eric also jointly received the ARRL's Technical Excellence Award in 2001 for their Elecraft designs. So without further ado, turn it over, and we're all excited to hear the story and see what you've been doing.
Well, thanks a lot. Appreciate that. And Bill, you can leave. Yeah, you only have this one on right now. I'll let you know when I want to bring on the other screen, probably during the Q&A session afterwards. But I don't want this to be too salesy. Obviously, we're here to talk about K4 and stuff, but I'm going to do a very short presentation, a couple of slides, like 5 or 6, and showing the front and the back in detail of the K4, so we can talk about that a little bit there, and then basically quickly walk through some features for some folks that aren't familiar with the ones, or just update you, refresh your memory. and talk about where we're at with it. We are shipping them, which is great. We started in very small quantities back in September, October timeframe, but we were start and stop between fires and a lot of other fun stuff. Of course, the COVID stuff has been there the whole time. That certainly has been a lot of delays this last year, which has been quite a challenge, but actually we've made it through it in good shape. And to everybody's credit that has products on order with us, we've seen hardly any cancellations, a few, but I can count them almost just on two hands. It's been pretty nice to see the support from everybody out there. We are starting to ramp up now. I've got quantity of boards coming in from our vendors in the last month, and we're building radios at the moment. And I had some go out this last week, and we'll have some going out this week, and be continually starting to catch up with my backlog. So it's going to take some time. So we got a lot of people there, but it's encouraging to see it, and just to prove they really exist, not just on my bench. This one's a production unit here, and so you got my fingerprints on it, but they don't show usually when you're using it. And we'll show you more about the back later, but you can see all the fun stuff back there. And we're trying to decide how much it weighs. I think the official weight is somewhere around 10 to 12 pounds, just to give you a feel for what this is. A K4D with the fully loaded second channel and everything in it. So I'm going to share my screen and see how this goes. Hold on a second here. I can bring up this, share, and let me make this, first of all, let's make it full screen. We can get it to do that. There. And okay. And it says, bring your shared window to the front. Bill, is there something I'm doing wrong here? This happened to us once before. You're not seeing what I'm seeing now.
Yeah, so reshare your screen.
Reshare it?
Yeah.
Okay. Let me
with
so
that
stop
running, yeah, there you go. You'll get the right one.
Okay, so share screen.
You remember you have to do that first, and then you get there you go.
I got it. Okay. The trick is getting you guys still on the screen there. Okay, so we're rolling, and yeah, I'm seeing how it's coming through here too. So just going to talk real quick about the K4. We introduced it back at Dayton of '99, and got a very strong response then, and have been feverishly getting everything rolling here. One of our folks, Scott. AF6RT, I hope that's correct, Scott, if I got that right, has done a lot of the software for us on it, along with quite a few other of our team. And he obviously has some invested interest in it getting out the door. And so we're getting excited about it now as it's really starting to ramp up. So quick features, we're direct sampling SDR. We're sampling at 122.8 megahertz. LTC 2208 analog to digital converters, for those of you that know and care. They're pretty much the standard now for the most 16-bit high-speed sampling receivers out there, that at least in the affordable ham radio market versus military applications. Even on a single analog to digital converter, we can dual receive. Typically on a single antenna, it's going to be in the same band. And if you can basically, you run into a multi-band antenna, and you still would have to use an actually external receive-only antenna path to be able to receive on different bands, but we can bounce around between those two within that band pass. But we'd have to, and when we're doing that, we'd have to do a single AD, turn off the bandpass filters, because you, of course, wouldn't be able to handle both bands at the same time. So then we have the K4D, which adds a second analog to digital converter, which is what I have on the bench here and behind me on the floor. And that now gives you two antenna receive paths. So now it's pretty flexible. And actually, the demo I'm showing here is receiving on two bands simultaneously on different bands. But dual receive, dual pan adapters. No crystal filters needed in the K4, K4D. It's all full high-speed analog filtering, or digital filtering inside our analog devices DSP, and it's running about 450 megahertz. So it's a lot faster than what we've had in the past for our DSP. The audio and transmit receive is, I think, an improvement over going through crystal filters in general. You get less in-band, both group delay issues and ripple. Of course, those are related, but it just sounds great both ways in terms of receive. And I'm sure that some of our field testers have mentioned that to you guys too, in terms of listening to pileups and very busy bands. So that's been a great result of the design here. Obviously, you have a large color touch LCD, but also you can use a mouse with it. You can also, there's a lot of physical buttons on the radio. So you're not looking at just a screen on it. You actually have a full, be able to reach and know where the buttons are, not even look at them sometimes when you're operating in a contest or anything along those lines. We also, by the way, can drive an external monitor, which you can see behind me. I've got a 1920 1080 monitor currently mirroring my actual screen on the radio down here. But you can also have a separate, I'll show you later, a separate pan adapter only display. You can switch on to. I'll probably have other ones that we design over time here too. I think Scott was actually responsible for getting that first one up for me when I show it to you, so I'll blame him for it. But it looks real nice, and you get all the buttons off the screen. So if you're not demoing, it's actually sometimes nicer just to have the pan adapters on the external monitor. And I'm actually splitting that and capturing it on the HDMI output on the radio, coming into a capture box that makes it like a webcam on my second computer here. So when we demo, I'll be showing you that also. We also built in 10 megahertz external input that automatically switches as soon as you plug 10 megahertz into it. So if you've got a GPS reference 10 megahertz source, that will even give you better stability. Then we've got a very good TCXO inside the radio also. And let's go on to the next one here. Real quick, modular upgradable architecture, similar to our other approaches on radios. This one, you can basically upgrade, first of all, of course, from a K4, which is a single A to D channel, single antenna into the A to D, but again, dual receiver in the same band primarily, but you could do it if you have a multi-band antenna on one of the receive antenna ports that we've got. K4D adds the second A to D. We call them digital down converters because it's got the A to D converter, a very large, and now Intel, it was Altera FPGA that does the actual digital down conversion, and then goes into also a PIC for processing of pan adapter data off of those and audio. So we had that. We had second bandpass filter on the K4D. So you've got tight bandpass filters in front of both receivers. The HD adds, if you want some more blocking dynamic range, you can actually add a superhead front end, and that's what we're working on next year. And we got delayed on that because of all this COVID and other stuff that got in the way of us here, but we're bringing that design up to fruition now. And that basically, you can switch back and forth between the direct sampling or going through a more traditional superhead front end, and then kicking that down to the A to D converters, and then everything else in the back end stays the same. We also have a VHF, hopefully VHF and UHF module. Actually, I think a VHF version of it's up right now in the lab. And that's it for folks that want to get up on, say, we already have 6 meters, but want to get up on 2 meters and 432 or 70 megahertz over in Europe. So we'll be giving that as a plug-in module. What's really cool, though, is you can upgrade after the fact. These, you don't have to buy the most expensive one out of the box. And that's important. So it's basically plug-in boards and some little MCX-based coax cables to connect the boards for the RF signals. Basically, you go from a K4 to a K4D, you get another bandpass filter board, which we call a KRX4, I think, and then also another digital down converter with another A to D converter. You plug both of those in, and a couple of cables snap into them, and you're up and operating. So it's pretty straightforward. Let's go on here. I'm going through these fast because I want to do mostly Q&A for you guys. Here's the front panel, and can you guys see that pretty clearly? Is that coming through sharp, Bill?
Yeah, it's coming through great.
Great. So we've got a couple of things that have changed from the K3 designs for those of you who use K3s. K3 had the same style of rubber buttons. This is a harder durometer rubber, so the idea is that it's a more firm press on it. But more importantly, we went from having a conductive hook on the back of the rubber buttons that went to a conductive set of traces on the board, and they would make the connection, which works well, but it's a softer feel when you push it. Had a little bit of a click from the other, like a little piece of rubber that snaps back and forth when you do it, but it wasn't the sort of acoustic feedback you get from physical buttons either. So what we've done on this one is we went to a higher hardness durometer of rubber on it, so it's very firm. But on top of that, we have physical buttons underneath, and so there's actually a distinct. You won't be able to hear it here, but if I would hit a button, you can actually feel it in your finger. You can, we can turn beeps on and off if you want to, but you can also feel that click through your finger when you click the buttons, and it's nice firm contact. And just overall, I think it was an improvement in the feel on the radio. So we've got dedicated buttons for the most commonly used stuff. You can do stuff on screen, but a lot of it you can do off screen on the buttons. On the left side, you've got your basic transmit buttons, enabling the auto tuner, setting up receive antennas, things like that. And on the right side, you've got your memories for CW memories, voice memories, bring up frequency memory recall, things like that. Preamp, noise blanker, noise reduction, notch, auto notch, and so on. And then, of course, right above the VFO, you'll see AB, swap, reverse, A to B copy, and spot and auto spot. So auto spot on CW. If you're tuned fairly close, it'll lock right in on it. And you have a mode button, so you can bring up a mode display. And I'll show you that, but you can also bring that up by tapping on the screen. We do this in a lot of cases. Actually, underneath the A and B VFO icons there, little blue and green ones, you can actually tap on those CW or USB ones like that on the screen. It'll bring up the same dialogue on the screen. You can tap on what you want to do if you want to switch side bands or go into a different mode. Or you can do it or through the mode button to bring it up. So you get both of those. We try to give you a lot of good information on the screen. The other main stuff, though, is you want to change bands. I'll show you. Just push the band button. It pops up a big band dialog with big buttons, so you can quickly hit the band you want. There's 3 knobs to the left side. You can see ones that are has a transmitter on it, just to the left of the screen, and it's controlling the 2 little icons to the right of it. And you'll see an orange bar there that's selecting words per minute on that right now, and I can turn the knob and that'll change words a minute. If I tap the knob in, these are switching encoders on the knobs, or if I just tap on the lower section where it says delay, I could go in there and adjust delay if I wanted to. Or if I tap a second time on one of the icons on the screen, WPM or delay, it'll switch to power, and I forget what it's got for the other one. Words per minute goes to, where's it go to here? If I do this, pitch, yeah, which we changed to pitch rather than PTC. That's an old PTCH it says now. So pitch and power on display if you tap that, and you can adjust it with that knob. Similar for filters, you can adjust bandwidth and shift. And I think we spelled it out shift now. That was an old picture that I said. But you can adjust the bandwidth and also the shift, or a high cut, low cut. If you tap it again, you can go into that mode. And then below you have the RF gain off that third knob for the main and sub receivers, and bounce back and forth. Again, you can select top to bottom of the 2 things. So if you're doing shift or width or high cut, low cut, when you're in that mode, you can just tap the filter button to go between those modes. We also can store filter settings, not just continuous adjustment like you have here, and put them in a filter button, which is on the right side, middle row, on the far right side. So it's just like changing crystal filters if you want to have some favorite filter bandwidths and stuff. So that gives you a quick feel for it. I won't go through it ad nauseum, but you have direct frequency entry with a big button up upper left-hand corner of the main VFO for VFO A. The knob, by the way, up in the upper right is VFO B, and RIT, XIT in the lower right with the controls in between to control those guys. So that's enough of the front panel here. I won't bore you more with that, but that gives you an idea. We can ask more questions as we go through here too. There's your back. I'll just walk through this real quick. If you have the auto tuner installed, you've got 3 antenna outputs. You also can route the other receiver. If you have your main receiver, can be on your transmit antenna, or it can be on any of the other antennas. And say if I'm transmitting on antenna 1, you can have your main receivers to start with that, can be on antenna 2, antenna 3, or 2 different receive inputs. Like on the K3, we have an RX antenna, group of BNCs at the bottom, which you can route in and out, tap off if you want. But if you just want one coming in, you can take that as RX1. If you're not using external transverters to the left, the input for the transverter actually is RX antenna 2 also. So you have a total of 5 sources for either receiver, which is sort of cool. They can always be slaved just to the transmit antenna, and they'll follow you around, or you can dedicate them to any one of these other antennas. There's some neat variations on that, and also it's ways to simplify it if you don't want to have that much choice. And I'll show you how it comes up. It's actually pretty simple. For those of you who have K3Ss, you'll recognize a lot of stuff. It's the same in terms of the PTT and out, paddles, keys. If you want actual analog line outs and they're there. You can have your mic and phone still on the back. Of course, speakers. You can put stereo speakers if you want coming out of it, so you can hear left and right for VFO A, VFO B, for instance. Then on top, we've got Ethernet built into it now for both remote control. It actually, the same command set can come into that as comes in over the PC connection, like your logging programs could talk to us either way. Of course, remote control can go over that too. We've also got, in addition to that square USB-B connector, which goes to a USB-A that plugs into your PC, you can also plug in things like, I have a mouse dongle plugged in the front of my radio. There's one on the front also. I didn't mention that, but it was on the front left-hand side near the mic jack. There's 2 more on the back here, USB-As. You could plug into keyboards. You could plug it on. In my case, I've got 3 K-pods, which I'll show in a little bit over here on the right. So we can actually, I have those set up right now to control VFO. It's overkill, but VFO A, VFO B, and RIT. I might just have VFO B there, so like a big knob instead of the smaller one, but you could have VFO A and B, or just have one and switch back and forth like we usually do. We've also still got the traditional RS-232. That's for guys that might have step IRs or things that need to be able to monitor your RS-232 stream. One cool thing about all these ports where you've got commands going in and out, this is important, is that they're not hardwired in parallel with each other. They're actual separate data streams going into the main processor in our main, we call K-server software. So that if you ask for frequency from a logging program and that's coming in on the PC connection, when the radio responds, it responds just to that connection. You could have someone simultaneously asking for frequency of a different VFO or even the same one on the Ethernet connection or on the RS-232 connection, or you could enable RS-232 just to spit out frequency information for your step-IR antenna to follow you around. And it doesn't get in the way of your logging program. So it eliminates the need a little bit of having multiple, we're having software that actually splits up multiple virtual COM ports on your computer. One other cool thing, when you plug in the PC connection, of course, we have like the K3S, a built-in sound card codec chip. And on top of that, and we've also got 2 COM ports, actual physical COM ports that come on that over USB, and they're both, again, independent. So you could have one going to your logging program and one going to something else. It could be a logging, if you had a separate logging program from your data program, they could both be talking. They wouldn't, as long as whoever sets frequency or something, if they're telling the radio to do something, the last guy is going to win, of course. But in terms of getting data and just seeing what's going on, they run independently, and same thing with Ethernet and RS-232. So you've got a fairly flexible environment for hooking it into more complex situations. And I can answer more questions about that as we go through here. I just want to give you a taste for that. Of course, video output over here. I think we relabeled it video on the guy here. And had to pay our friends at HDMI licensing a fair chunk of change every year to have that, but we felt HDMI was the widest use interface, for monitors these days. So we did that. The ATU, by the way, is not just a switch tail network like we have on the K3. We've also got the other half of the antenna switching matrix on that. You can, I think without that, you get a single antenna output and you could still use the other 2 receive antenna because I think those are switched on the main board, but you lose some of the flexibility of the, sort of a cross matrix to connect things back and forth. So that really helps a lot to get to the 5 receive antennas per receiver. We have antennas memories for HE memories like on the K3. Each band, frequency, and segment handles the same extended frequency matching range, typically 10 to 1 on 80 through 10, and roughly 5 to 1 on 160 and 6. I already mentioned the digital and analog I/O, so I won't go through that anymore. Monitor, K-pod tuning knob, I mentioned that already, and of course the amplifier matches too. And remote control is sort of cool. We're doing a lot of this stuff. This is still getting fleshed out. We've got a few things rolling on. Certainly you can remote control us right now with remote rigs and stuff. And actually, I'll show you in a moment here after I get out of this. I've got basically a prototype on the digital section of the K40. Some folks may have seen me demo this before, but I've got another K4 sitting up here, which you'll see also has spectrum and stuff on it. The only thing inside this is the main CPU and the front panel, and it's talking over Ethernet, basically linking up with the guy down below here. And they're basically, anything I do on this guy will control the one on the bottom in real time. And the pan adapter data is streaming over that real time, which is nice. So you're only limited by your Ethernet connection and, of course, what level of remote network connections you've got. One cool thing is we have a client-server architecture inside the radios. So our user interface talks to K-serve, which is our server interface. K-serve can have multiple user interfaces talking to. You could have, I've had it demonstrated where I have a tablet hooked up to it and a radio like this. Could be another K4 even for the digital display portion. And they all are operating simultaneously, which is sort of cool. Of course, you got to coordinate who's doing what with the radio if there's more than one person playing with it, but it supports that quite functionally, which is nice. And we're going to shrink this down, by the way, to something that's probably more about roughly that deep for a K4, or just call it a K4 mini. And let's see, I went the wrong direction here. Oh, my mouse wheel moves this too. That's new. I didn't know that. Okay, so we got that. Yeah, we already got that. So I'll switch to questions. Actually, what I'd like to do, Bill, is if you could switch me back to have both windows highlighted, and I'll bring up the video on this one here so it's not muted.
Yeah, sure. So I just let everybody unmute themselves if they'd like. I'm kind of watching that very carefully here. So yeah, why don't we just go ahead and stop your share.
Stop the share. I'll do that. Sorry, yep. I can take care of that.
And then yeah, I'll get both of those pinned on the screen here. Just
okay.
Bear with me for one moment here. Okay, very good.
I'm going to bring it wider here, so I'm looking at it too. Actually, it looks a little better. It must be when you turn off the other guy's videos, the resolution went up quite a bit. It's still not at the full resolution I'm seeing behind me here. So you can see real time behind me, the same stuff on the screen. I've got this actually right now just mimicking the screen of the radio. It's nice for showing off to friends, showing at trade shows and so on. One thing I do though, and actually if
We're not seeing the side by side.
You're not seeing the side by side? I'm seeing it here.
Yeah, I'm seeing it here too, Bob. Make sure you maximize.
That might be it. I'm seeing myself two places, actually. I'm seeing the side by, well, actually, the other place is just my copy of myself. Yeah, I'm seeing it side by side on the computer, my other computer where I'm watching like you guys are.
I've got side by side.
Yeah.
So do I.
I don't know. Is this impacted by how they have their view set up?
Yeah, more than likely, they might just need to, do that, do the right thing,
Bob.
Bob.
TV Bob in the upper right-hand corner, where you can go gallery versus spot. I don't know if it's spotlight or what the other choice is there, but
Speaker view, or I've got it on speaker view and gallery. And
I'll try. Yeah, I just have it on speaker view right now. I don't know.
It's a semi-newer Zoom feature, Bob. So if you haven't updated your client in a while, that could also do it.
I was seeing side by side before. Oh well.
Okay.
Okay. I don't know what we did differently. That's the only thing I can control from this end. I think Bill did that, but. Is everybody else pretty much seeing the side by side right now? Is anybody else not seeing it, or?
Looks good here.
Looks good here.
It's good here.
Good
I don't
here.
know what else. Bob knows. I know he knows what the plant adapter looks like. So I'm not going to go into. But I am going to do.
I was able to pin that one, so I can see the pan adapter, not your face, which is much better. But go ahead.
Who needs my phone? Well, I am going to point to things periodically, so you might miss that, Bob. But you could put me in. I don't know, gallery mode, do that? I don't know what you can play with that and see.
Point with the mouse.
Okay.
I see both of your windows in gallery.
Okay. That might work too. So what I'm going to do right now, I'm actually going to switch. I'm going to go into our menu real quick and change the external monitor. By the way, you can tell it where the monitor is located. If it's right, left, I think above and below. Is that the other options? I think so. So your mouse, you can drag your mouse actually to the external monitor, for instance. But that's only when you're actually using the pan adapter only display, because when you're copying the main screen, it's always there. But what I'm going to do real quick is I'm just going to switch to the external one so you can see what that looks like. So that's over external monitor function and unlock it. And I'm going to mirror the LCD. So let's go there, or go to pan adapter and go back out. And there we go, magic. So now you're looking at a dedicated pan adapter display. And by the way, I can change those, so I can make that external one. Let me see, I can make it VFO-A only, VFO-B only. I'm going to go into my display setup here real quick and do that. So if I go to external only, and I could make it, let's see here. Now I'm just looking at the CW band, and I'm seeing the whole thing across the screen, which is nice. And or I can make it VFO-B. And I'm looking at the sideband guys on the contest. And by the way, you can change the waterfall height in all these. So if I go over and you can't see them, I'll show you the screen I'm clicking on here, but I can go through here and I can, I want to see all spectrum, or if I'm TV Bob, you probably want to see all pan adapter Bob, or very little spectrum like that. It's your choice. So if you want to see all that history for the, where people have been in the contest at that point, you can do that too. So I could basically adjust the view. I'm still seeing split A and B on my main radio right now. I could have changed that, but I'm not doing that at the moment. Or I can go back, each way, so you can see the CW band there too. Any questions on that external monitor function? By the way, Scott is the guy that did that one, so you can congratulate him. I think it looks great, to be honest. We're fine tuning some of the colors. We'll get people we'll have a black and white grayscale thing for people that have color issues, and also.
You might want to mention how the mouse wheel works on either one.
Oh yeah, cool. Let me put it back in split here for a second. Just a moment. I will do that. Go here. Okay. So by the way, I can drag the mouse off of my screen here. If I go that away, I will show up over here. And you probably can, if you look carefully, you can see a mouse under 7061 on the left-hand pan adapter monitor guy. I have to be careful not to watch that. There's a slight delay. But I can basically click with my left mouse and move VFO-A. I'm going to stay on the top of the spectrum here. I have to look at the screen, or I'm going to not be able to do this. Okay. Can you guys see the mouse He's not gigantic, but around 7044,
Yes.
I've got a little mouse. Okay.
Yeah.
So if I left click there, there's a little blue line right here. I don't know if that, yeah, it is coming through good for you guys. That's VFO-A. And then green, of course, you can see a wider one over here on the other side, over here. And that's VFO-B with, of course, a wider bandwidth showing too. So vary bandwidth, it varies the width on those cursors. If you actually click somewhere, I can, like on the sideband guy, I can click and use the right-hand button for VFO-B on the mouse and left-hand button, the way I'm set up right now for VFO-A, makes it easy. So I just move that guy onto another person here. And I can then fine-tune it with the mouse button.
Mouse wheel.
Yeah, mouse wheel. That's what I'm doing right now to tune my hands. I can do the same thing over on CW, so I'll go over here. Turn down that one. I'll bring back to CW. So I can go over here and say, okay, let's go listen to this guy. Left click on it. And I can fine tune it. You can see the numbers changing and everything as I do that real time. There we go. So if you're in a split screen, that's nice. And you could also have in the same band, you could be looking at the whole CW band during the contest, and then have a narrower window that just shows plus or minus, say, 5 kilohertz around you, whatever you want. So you can get an idea of what's going on elsewhere, but also be zoomed in for what you're trying to pick out. So you got a lot of flexibility here. And I'll show you how that's actually set up. I'll go back to the mirror screen, because that's actually, will show you what the other stuff on the display here looks like.
All right, make sure to mention the mini pan. These are RTTY guys.
Ah, okay. So if I was in RTTY mode, I have to bring it up in RTTY mode, but maybe I can fake it. If you tap and hold the screen or click and hold the screen like I'm doing right now, oh, you won't be able to see it if I share the screen. Excuse me. Let me switch back to that. Just a moment. I'm going to switch the external monitor back to mirror LCD, and should be there in a second. Stay tuned. There we are. Okay, so we're back to mirroring now, and you can see my mouse on the screen here. If I either click and hold the mouse down, like mouse A in the left-hand window where I have my VFO-A, or if I touch and hold the screen, same thing, it brings up a tuning window, and you can see where you're fine-tuned and what's going on around you. So it zooms in too when you're quickly tuning. And I could do it with my finger and be dragging it back and forth and tuning, but I find usually when I'm in I'm going to use my mouse, and so I click and hold the mouse down and do exactly the same thing, and I can drag it or get close, and then Bob, is there a way for me to bring it? I can actually lock it up too, right? Isn't there a way for me to do that?
What was your question?
Remind me how to lock the window up. I forgot how to do that for a second.
Tap the S meter.
Tap the S meter. Thank you, guys. It's been a while since I've used that way. So you can leave it up all the time if you want, and then as you click somebody, you can say, oh, I'm going to zoom in on that guy as I fine tune them, and you can do that. You see what I'm doing there. So it's actually performing a parallel FFT. That one's being done inside the PIC processor that's streaming the pan adapter data. It just grabs a copy and downsamples and gets into that range there.
If you want to change your mode to FSK or AFSK, it'll show you the two
I'll do that.
lines.
So I can actually, you'll see my hand here. I'm going to touch, rather than touching the mode button over here, which brings up mode, you can see it there. I tap it again. I can also just tap on CW here. And let me change, what do you want me to, Bob, just to FSK?
FSK.
There we are. And I may not have, do I have the latest version in there? Did I miss it? My mistake, excuse me. I'm looking at the wrong things here. Okay. Oh, I guess it takes away that.
Okay.
There we go. Okay, now you're seeing,
mark in space.
Yeah, you can see the two little lines there. So you see you're marking the space on that mode that I'm in right now. By the way, when you see at the bottom of the screen here, this little icon next, this is actually a TV Bob suggested this to us, and it came out nice. That's a little mouse where it says B. That tells you what your mouse wheel focus is right now. So if I go over on the right-hand part of the display and I click to move the mouse, you'll notice that, did it? Yeah, it should, that's interesting. Yeah, it's B on both of them now. The gray just sort of gives you an A and a B reference for the two. They don't have, both VFOs can be in the same window, by the way, they don't care, but right now I have them on different bands, so it makes more sense thinking about them that way. But basically right and left clicking, you always know which one you're going to get. If you left for VFO-A, right for VFO-B, though I think you can override that with just left for everything, but it's a little more confusing. But that gives you an idea. It looks like we basically for RTTY, it's made it easier to tune in the RTTY tones there when you're actually looking at it. So that gives you an idea of what's going on there. Anything else I should show off, Bob, since you play with this quite a bit on the mouse and clicking stuff? I think we've covered most of that. show you a couple things here. I'll go ahead and turn that off the the screen. Again, as you can tell, we
You,
have sort of a. Go ahead, Bob.
If you push down the mouse wheel, it toggles RIT on, and then you can then it turns
Well,
to
that's
an
a new one. I haven't
operator.
used that one. Hey, yeah, there it goes. My RIT. You can see my little RIT light came on too. So I should be
Now
able
the
to.
mouse
I'm
wheel is
doing-
moving the RIT.
Yeah. But you just play with it more than I have in that area. I can't turn it off that. Can I turn off it that way, or I have to actually tap it to turn it off?
Yeah, it toggles off.
And by the way, you can talk on the screen too. You can tap the screen too. Or you go over here and turn it on that way too. So there's a lot of redundancy. You don't have to do stuff on the screen, but it's there if you want to use it. And also on your FSK, if you have the dual tone filter on, it shows a double hump filter width. Let's see here if I can bring the mouse over here. Right in this area here where FL3 is. And is of course very bandwidth, things will move there, but also if I turn off dual peak filtering for FSK, you want to let your software do all the work. It'll go back. I don't know if it's in this release of software yet, but we're making it so it goes back to just like a regular, like you have on the USB thing over the right here, is to regular width. So you can see the change as you go through that. These also show shift. They move back and forth as you shift left and right or the edges and so on. So
I got a question from NS6T. Does it support Bluetooth wireless headsets?
Not directly. You can plug a Bluetooth sender into it. I don't have Bluetooth inside the radio for it. I've used lots of dongles in the past to do that. My biggest problem with Bluetooth is like for CW, any Bluetooth you use pretty much has enough delay that makes it almost impossible to listen to your side tone and send. If someone has one that's faster, I'd be interested because I'd like to do that also. I've got wireless Bose headphones and stuff. If I'm having sideband, it's less of an issue. But obviously, if you're in our data mode, of course. But if you're operating on CW, it makes it really tough with that delay. Okay, let me just, I'm going to show you a few more things about the screen here. I think I was talking before about how you can, I'll go up here with these three knobs here. You can sort of see my hand on those. I did have another monitor camera here, but I don't know if that's going to help because I think it's not going to focus here. Let me just do something really quick. I'm going to try switching to this camera. Is that, that's sort of fuzzy. That help? Is that better looking at it at that level, guys, when I'm touching the actual?
Yeah, it looks fine.
So again, these three knobs over here. So for instance, if I want to change bandwidth right now, I'm on the bandwidth setting here and I can go to shift by just pushing that guy back and forth. And you can see it. If you're looking at on the left of the screen, you can see me shifting between bandwidth and shift. So I can shift things back and forth. Where did I go here? Actually, it's not shifting for me. What do I do here? Got it confused. I did something to it earlier. I'm playing too many games. But I can go
How to
back
get out of
between the two.
FSK mode.
Oh, that's probably why. It's probably locking me down. Let's do that. Let's go back to where we were actually in CW anyway, which is, yep, there we are. So I can. You can see the bandwidth changing on the screen, both in the icon and the cursor. But I can go to shift. I can move the shift back and forth. That's why I was doing that. Yeah, you can see it changing on the icon, but also if you look closely, though, it's sort of hard at this resolution on the screen. It's doing the same thing. If you were zoomed in a bit more, you'd see that on the actual cursor. Now, if I want to go between RF gain for A or A or B receivers, I can switch that way too. Transmitter, I got words a minute right up here. I can go down here. If I want to just change it to pitch, I just tap the screen there. Now I'm doing pitch. It'll change my pitch if you start sending again here. So you can see me adjusting that too. So that's it for 500. So that's all really that's only much multifunctionality you have to deal with in those knobs. There's not a lot to remember, and you can always see it on the screen, which is sort of cool. By the way, right here is where I've got the other USB slot that can be used for saving parameters in the radio. We're getting a protocol set up so we can save your user setup, hopefully like for contesting, where a guy can go in and plug in his stuff, but not screw up the whole radio. And then you can kick it back to defaults afterwards, or have the next guy come in and plug his smart, his flash drive, USB flash drive, and be able to do that. That's not fully turned on yet, but we're actually right in the middle of adding that. Those are more advanced features we're doing for it.
Eric, K6MI asked a question about CW print screen. That would be like text decode mode on CW.
We have text decode on CW, sure. I can go into main RX, and do we have it on here? Yeah, text
on the
decode.
right.
Yeah, I just got it. And let's turn it on. I don't know how well it's going to do on these guys, but we'll get it set. Give it a set. I go pick 1 line or 3 lines. I'll take up more screen space if I'm with 3 lines. And threshold auto is on. Let's see how it does here. So that should, if I tune someone in, it might help. Okay. I'm gonna narrow it down. Got all these guys on here. That guy's really weak. You find something that's a little more constant.
I think Zoom is deciding that CW isn't voice and filtering it out.
Can you hear the CW?
We can. It's just when it's loud, it gets
Yeah,
muted.
it's-
You can turn it down because you don't need it up.
It's trying to notch it out.
Oh, it thinks it's interference. Okay, turn it way down there. How's that?
Good.
Like in the background. Now, you're obviously, the way I'm doing it right now, I'm not squelching it all, so you're going to see noise in between when he's not transmitting sometimes. I think it's set to an auto threshold.
So now we need to zoom the other display.
As in, which display are you talking about? Oh, go back. I'm sorry, you lost me, Bob. Zoom which display? That one?
I just did it. Yeah, like that.
Oh, okay. So, oh, you're doing that for the moment just because you wanted to see how it looks on the screen here too? Okay. Other than that, I'm not going to go too much over here, except you got the frequency entry. I can just type in the little red numbers. You can barely see them on here. Probably not on the Zoom very well at all, but those are the actual digits. You can type in as a return key. You can hit back. You can have a backspace also. And if
It's doing very well with the CW decoding.
Yeah, it is. It's doing nice.
Yeah.
We get something a little faster here. Let's see. I'm going to get a screamer here.
If you can switch the LCD to the presenter screen, then people will see the decode.
Oh, they're not seeing it?
Yeah, I just pinned that
screen
and then I can
Why
see.
don't you pin the other screen? Pin the.
Yeah, I'm doing that now.
He's going to get it. Okay. Can you see that, guys, now?
Doing fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The other guy's off frequency a little bit. I got it notched down. I got it down to 100 hertz. Let me go a little wider here.
Oh, NS6T wants to know if WinKeyer is built in. The answer
No,
is no.
not yet.
And
Stay
but
tuned.
FSK keying is built in the keyboard mode, and the KY command, same thing you do in a K3 is built in.
Yeah, basically, somebody asked me on the groups.io list, they have a K4 thing, if we supported their universal, like Logitech dongle. And I think I answered incorrectly. I was thinking keyboard plus mouse on a single dongle. It does do that, but on the I don't know, they had something that's a little more advanced that they do, and I don't know if we support that or not in terms of the drivers we've got built in. We can always look at adding it, but so you've got this level of decoding. Also for RTTY, you can hook a keyboard up and send RTTY with this if your software goes down or something like that for a contest. So we've got that all built in. It's not bad having that in the background when you're looking at someone saying, "What did he say?" Or what, if you need a report or something, it'll help you out. But and certainly also for guys that are learning code, it's handy too. So pretty cool stuff. But yeah, it works the same in terms of bringing up these text windows. You basically just go down here. I'm going to tap the main receive button, and that brings up. You can set up receive EQ, by the way. So if you want to EQ it, I can go here and I can drag. I'm just using my finger right now to drag it up and down, or your mouse. You can get the response the way you want for your ears, and peak it up for those of us that need more high frequency response. If you screw it up, just hit flat and it goes back to flat. You can adjust your line out for digital modes right here. And you can also do left and right or tie them together. You can also go to AGC off, fast or slow. You can also, by the way, tap just on the AGC icon on the screen. Okay, you do have me in a window. Let's see, do you have me in a window? I don't see that. Hold on a second here. Let me just do one thing on the other computer. Can you keep me in a small window there somehow?
Yeah, I can't change the size of you, but I'll try to bring you back whenever there's something that people want to see.
Oh, actually, yeah, you can't put me in there because it's that thing. But yeah, I was just trying to say if you've got a little bit on this. But what I was going to say is these guys here, they're all big buttons. They're all designed so you can hit them with your thumb or anything. It doesn't care. Text decode is on the main receiver there. Transmit, by the way, you've got TXEQ the same way. I can't do it in CW, obviously. But basically line in we can adjust here, but I'm not set up for that in this one right now. But mic input, Vox gain, paddle normal, reverse, iambic A, iambic B. And you can adjust your weighting in here too on the transmit side. So
you want to demonstrate the audio peaking filter?
I could do that. Let me first get out of the text. We turn off the text here. I'll get back to a bigger display on the screen here. So there we go. So I don't know if you heard that, but it has a very sharp peak. That's it. The audio peaking off. He's pretty strong, so I don't think it's. I have to find a weaker one. That's useful for the real weaker. There he is without it, and then. But you got to be right on the signal because it's. So I think we're adding a command bub. I don't know if it's in there yet, where you can vary the width of the peak on audio peaking filter. Do you know if we've done that yet?
I think it's in the menu, that APF menu that you in the receive.
Does the spot work?
Yeah,
absolutely.
Auto
works.
Yeah.
I got the. Let me turn the side tone up a little bit here.
He was asking about auto spot.
Auto spot? Yeah, it works.
Yeah.
You got to be fairly close, within a couple hundred hertz. Let's stay here. Oh, he went away before I hit it. You just push and hold the spot button to auto spot it. I'm gonna wait till he comes back here. I got the APF on here too. Let me turn that off. There it is. It just locked in on that guy and brought him in.
Nice.
There it is. See it lock into him too.
You could demonstrate manual notch too.
That one works. It works in CW, right? That's not coming up right now. I'm not sure what. I may have a lot.
Actually,
oh, there it is. There it is. There it is.
You got to get way down to his pitch around 400 or so.
Yeah, he's actually he's at 500 right now. Oh, he's gone. I just killed him. You can get rid of that guy next to you with that too, which is nice. See, he's gone now.
It's a very nice manual notch filter.
Yeah. And of course, you have automatic notch too, which is more useful, I think, on wide bandwidth modes. But that's pretty cool. So get back out of there. And band buttons I mentioned before, just literally. And if you want to do, if you're looking at both VFOs here, like a K3, I'm going to turn down the background CW. I'm going to go back to my stuff here for a second. I think. Where are we here? Change that to some face. Here I am. So basically, lost my train of thought now. I was going to, when you're basically dealing with two VFOs here, we've got a button over here called B set, and it's similar to the K3. So when you see that up, whenever you do that, any buttons you're touching here, you're turning noise blanker on and off on the sub receiver now. You can see that icon going off instead of the main. If I turn off B set, you're doing the same thing on the A guy. So that's an easy way for you to see what's going on. There are a few things where you can touch it left and right. If I go over here and touch AGC here, it goes to slow and back to fast. So you got a quick way there that's per radio. I don't know if noise blanker, they got to make noise blanker do the same thing for me. They haven't done that yet. But if I go over to B set, I can turn the noise blanker in theory on and off. There we go. And noise reduction and so on. So pretty straightforward. If you used a K3, there's a lot of similarities on it there too. You can also adjust the waterfall sensitivity to signal strength in terms of how quickly it goes from a bluish background to the reddish, full strength level. If you're looking for weaker signals, you can emphasize it in that without having to crank up the gain on the main spectral display. And by the way, let me show that here. I'm going to bring up the display button right here. It's called display. You see it on the very bottom row there. And it looks complicated at first, but actually all you're doing here is you're telling it I want to touch stuff on the LCD or the external display or both at the same time. LCD, I could change it here to be pan A only, for instance, like I just did in the external one before. I just did it here. Or if I tap this button again, oops, went too far. Pan A, and that's B with the sideband guys, or A plus B. So it's your choice. And again, I can change the, I'll do that again there with that full thing here. So I'm tapping the left-hand button, and I can switch between those. So if I want to just see the CW band there, I could have the sideband band be the only one on the external monitor if I was running that external pan adapter mode. And I could set it up by just choosing external instead of internal here. That would adjust that at the same time. So you can have some flexibility in setting up the pan adapters. So you can optimize the one in front of you and then the one on the external monitor any way you want. So if you're doing it that way, it's pretty cool. And you're back just to me here for a second, but okay, I'm getting dizzy watching myself on the screen. So what other questions can I answer for you? I'm just sort of rolling through some of the demo stuff here, but I don't want to drive you guys crazy doing that. I wanted to sort of give you a feel for the radio. I think I've covered about 60% of the key features in the radio, but I can answer anything else or any other questions you guys have. Go ahead and shoot away if you want.
I got a question here, Eric.
Yeah.
When you pulled up the receive equalizer, the lowest frequency band I saw there was 100 hertz. Is that adjustable?
That is the lowest one right now because there's a natural roll off if you go much below that, I think, in the overall radio design here. We don't want to have 60 hertz getting in, obviously, for the sideband operators and things like that. But I think that is the limit, though. It's not a super narrow filter, so it's sort of a broad filter. I mean, it'll pull out if there's anything at a lower frequency than that getting through. It'll start pulling that out too. Don't think of it just at 100. It's a a broad band there. Between that and the next bandwidth that you see, it's going to sort of overlap. So okay, well, main receive and receive EQ. So you're talking about that there, for instance?
Yeah, but my main concern is breath pop is very low frequency.
Yeah, I don't know if I can get rid of breath pop or not.
That's very important, Eric.
Yeah, but I think what I'm saying is that we already roll off down there, Jim. That's what.
Okay. Okay. If it's gone, I don't care how it's gone.
Yeah, no, I'm an old radio broadcast guy. I know all about the breath pop stuff here. I always talk a little sideways in my mic when I bring the sideband mic over here, but it works out pretty well. No, I haven't had an issue with that at all on this. I think there's sort of a natural roll off as you get down below 100 hertz. That's my whole point. I was trying to say is that this 100 hertz one, I find I don't have to use that much at all. I usually am working more mid band and upper stuff that matches my hearing requirements or whatever I'm doing on transmit. Of course, you can do the same thing on transmit. You push the TX button over on the right bottom here instead of the receive, and in there one of the options is TX EQ. We can, except I'm in CW, so it's not going to let me do that right now. I have to be in sideband mode. It numbers it per mode.
Yeah, a TX is what I'm concerned with.
Yeah, so the TX would be the same one, but again, it rolls off the same way. Right. I don't believe we have a frequency response down below 100 hertz. That's significant.
Andy A6Y is asking, is there a way to have noise blanker, noise reduction presets like noise blanker 1, noise blanker 2, etc., because it's hard to adjust in a contest?
That's a good question. I don't think we have them right now. It's not a bad idea. I should put my notepad down here. So I can't say, when I write things down, I have to be careful. Wayne always has this phrase that's on the list. If you ever saw his list, it's so long, we never get it done in 100 years. But that said, noise blanker presets.
Yeah, Eric, this is Andy, AE6Y. To amplify, I find in a contest that if I get, I just don't have time to fiddle with it. And it takes a while in the K3 to kind of equalize. And it's some older radios that have the little presets are more convenient to use.
I think you're going to find the noise reduction in this radio is a little easier to adjust. And we're actually evolving a couple different algorithms that you could set up ahead of time, obviously, but I wouldn't change those in the middle of a contest, but for what you like the best. But one of the problems I have with the K3 is it seemed to sort of switch back and forth between amount of noise reduction, the amount of mix, and you weren't quite sure how you were getting there. And this one's a little bit smoother feeling as it goes through increased noise reduction. But we'll be taking input on that too. One thing I find with noise blankers is everybody has a different idea of what a good noise blanker is, and everybody has a different idea what they have for noise reduction, the same thing. But on the noise blanker presets, that's not a bad idea, just in terms of the amount of noise blanking. We actually are going to have 2 different noise blanker settings you can pick from too. So I'll think about that in terms of memories.
Talk about per mode band.
I'm sorry, say it again.
Talk about per mode per band.
Which per mode per band? For noise blanking or for?
Yeah, noise blanker.
That's a good question. I don't know. Bob, do you know if we store those per mode or per band? I think we do.
Yeah.
But I don't
I think
know
it
if we
does.
do it per mode. You have to be careful. If you get too granular in this, it drives some operators crazy because they just like, how do I adjust it? Keeping track of where it is.
Yeah, some settings are per VFO, which is bad when
Yeah.
they do swap BVFO a lot.
Oh.
There's a technical question if you want to try and handle it.
I'm relatively technical here in the company. I'm sort of the Uber engineering manager. I have to sort of keep all the wild ideas on track, and also I'm also the performance nut in the company. So I'm with some of the toys back here. I move my head to some old 8640s who are still real nice low noise sig gens, though I want to get some better ones now. We keep pushing the envelope on stuff. But go ahead and shoot away. What's the question?
I got a pile up of 3 questions here.
Okay.
First one.
They come in on text. That's where
Yeah,
it is?
yeah,
that's right.
Here.
Some are. This one's actually private to me in chat, so I don't think other people saw.
Okay. Go ahead.
Yeah, what do you ask it, Bob?
Gotta go scroll down. Just a sec.
Well, I'll ask one of the other questions is there. So how does that diversity receive work? I'm assuming you need the D model for that?
Yeah, you do need the D model for it because you're receiving on 2 different antennas, so you need 2 A to D converters. That's sort of the basic deal. And it's functionally, though, for some reason, Wayne didn't have it enabled on the latest software release, and I'm going to slap his hand. He's on. You can still get Bob. It knows how to get in manually with linking it and everything else, and then on different antennas. But what you really want is you want it to be able to just turn it on and have it, with it in the band you're in, basically have this set up instantly for you in terms of the 2 antennas you've already previously chosen. So there's a sub button down here in the lower right hand corner. My hand's sort of on it. You can't see it. But if you push and hold that, that's supposed to bring up diversity just like the K3 did. We basically can select, let me show you the receive antenna selection. You can set this up, and also you can simplify it if you don't want to use all of these guys. We have a button over here on the right side, my finger's on it, that says RX antenna, just like on the K3, except if you tap it, it gives you RX antenna selection for the main receiver. And if you hold it, there's tapping. If you hold it, you'll see it switch to sub receiver on there on the display. And what you can do is, I'm the main receiver now. I happen to be using the RX antenna inputs because I've got my simulator or the band recordings. It's IQ data coming in as RF. It's basically mixed back up. We use an XG3 little signal generator that we make as our local oscillator with an IQ modulator to mix it back up to RF from the baseband IQ that it's stored as. And actually, in this case, I mixed these back up to the band they came from. So if I'm viewing the VFOA now on the display, you can see if I go over and tap, instead of RX1, I put it on antenna 3. Hey, there's nobody there right now. I can basically go through and select that's the transmit antenna. There's the receive antenna. RX2 is the one I'm feeding 40 meter data to, so you're not going to see much there. You can also link it to the TX antenna, which is where they usually come out default when you're first starting. But I can set this up, and Bob, there's a way I think we can configure which ones you bounce between when you push the RX antenna. So if you don't need all these selections.
If you tap the main RX and then antenna config, and then check the little box at the bottom of which antennas you want to be selected by the button. So you can sort of say, I don't have an antenna 3, and just toggle between the 2 that I have.
Right, so you can make it a lot simpler. But the idea is that you've got, when you have the HEU involved, if that switching matrix in the HEU, you'll see there's a ton of relays on there. You basically have the flexibility of routing either the 2 receivers, either to your transmit antenna, they can share that. There's a splitter in there so they can share it. Or they can be on different paths. They can both be on the non-transmit antenna. They could be one on one receive port and one on one of your either antenna 2 or antenna 3 ports, for instance, or another receive port. It doesn't care. So it's pretty easy to obviously set it up this way. If there's more selections than you need for your particular situation, you don't have to worry about that because you can just you can X some of them out like what we just showed you there.
Yeah.
And
the main point is to make it work like a K3 where you just tap the button and it cycles through antennas. And
exactly. Yeah. I think I need to put back
so
my signals here. Let's go back to RX1. I think there they are.
So
my RX1 port.
The technical question had to do with the matching circuits inside the radio, the matching and filtering circuit between the antenna and the A to D input. This is from WA6KBL asking, about the optimal performance for what kind of matching and filtering circuit is between the antenna and the A to D converter.
When we say matching, well, of course, we have a overall L network for the main antenna. There's no matching beyond a straight 50 ohm path coming in on the if you're not going through the ATU, obviously. But generally, you're still going to be pretty close enough on most bands. It's not a big problem unless you have a horrible match.
Well, this on the receive side, I guess,
On the
the
receive side,
impedance
yeah,
matching or whatever.
Yeah, well, it's all coming through a 50 ohm channel throughout the whole radio. We come in the case of the transmit antenna, you're coming in through, if you're using the ATU and L network, if you've got the ATU and bypass, but you're just using the switching matrix, it's going directly through our low pass filters. And then this is on the primary receiver, receiver A, which is also, your transmit could be on receiver B, on B2, wherever your transmit antenna is, comes through that path. And then you go into past our TR network and also into high order bandpass filters. Those, and of course we have anti-aliasing filters we have to have in front of the A to Ds also for images and stuff. But so those are 58 megahertz cutoff, I think, or something in that range that are always in line. And then those go into the A to D converter. We digitally down convert, digitally filter out the image from the digital down conversion, and basically then spit that out, I think, at about a 44 kilohertz bandwidth going into the DSP chip, which then down converts as needed to its final filtering for all the final filtering and audio and stuff. But in terms of the analog filtering, you're very good. You're not going to have major issues at all with adjacent bands and stuff. I think we've done a pretty good job on that. It works out quite nicely. Does that answer the question, or is there something I'm leaving out for you? I can dig into it more if you want.
I think it answers the question. There was another good one, and that had to do with what's the latency of the receiver?
Gosh, it's fast. And Bob, I think you were part of, I know we're still doing some tweaking to make it even faster, but why don't you give them a feel for what the CW break-in has been giving you?
Oh, not break-in, it was a receiver latency, like, the flex radios have really bad receiver latency. Like,
oh yeah, it's nowhere near as long as that. I don't have the number in front of me, but no, that's the whole point. It's like it's actually faster than the K3 in terms of the processing channel. We're running a much faster chip in terms of the DSP chip. I'm sorry, I'm going to make a note because I actually have that at the tip of my tongue and I don't know what it is, but they put it this way, it's for the quick turnaround modes and digital and stuff, it doesn't cause any problem, of course. And when you're running break-in, you're going to hear those guys. You're not going to be way behind the crowd. In other words, it's faster than a K3 in terms of the overall latency. I'm very sure of that because I know the internal architecture on it.
Then Jim K9YC wanted to know if you can do sort of noise cancellation or signal cancellation like in DX Engineering NCC2. You can phase 2 receive.
Yeah, phasing thing. If you could certainly take an external box like that and feed it into us, but no, we don't have that internally right now. There's some maybe down the road, but if you're trying to do the narrow filtering for the signal demodulation at the same time for us, we found that added a lot of compromises. Actually may have even add a lot of latency when you're trying to do that, but that may be something we can tweak on down the road. It's not in there right now though. I'd like to do it too, by the way. I think I used to have an ANC, was it JPS made one called an ANC3 that I used to do that with all the time.
ANC4.
ANC4, yeah.
Yeah, W6IFN wants to know if you can share details on the upcoming VHF power module. How much power output? Will it be another seamless band or feel like using a transverter?
It'll be a number. Oh gosh, it won't feel like it. It'll be a seamless band basically, and hopefully be 2 bands. So I don't think does he have the transverter band? No, he doesn't have that in here yet. They were just bringing up the graphic for it this week. But basically, when you hit exverter 1, yeah, right now it's not going to do anything. So it's just a single transverter. But you can actually pick multiple transverters. Probably should turn that back off and go back. I was on 7, right? What did I do here? There we are. But you'll be able to, instead of transverter 1, it'll be able to select a sub-transverter menu, and you can pick how you've set up your radio with internal or external transverters. And it's pretty much just acting like another band in the radio. That's the goal for all of our stuff. So if you've got our, we don't make them anymore, but the 220 megahertz or 432 megahertz transverters externally, or if you get a dual band, say a 432 to 450 and 144 to 148 transverter, hopefully be dual band for both of those.
And the power output?
Just like another band. We're targeting in the 20 to 25 watt range. I know Wayne in a talk that he did earlier this week that I couldn't make on Saturday, that was going to be giving one of these talks.
He said 10 or something.
No, he's at 10 or 15. We know he's a QRP guy. He drives me crazy. What he's saying is the first one they brought up, they were having some trouble getting the power above 15, so he was worried about that. But I said, Wayne, Bob Freese, N6CM does our transverter designs, and Bob is a sharp guy. He was the CTO and co-founder of Digital Microwave. For those of you who've been around the Valley long enough, he's still an excellent designer and has all the neat CAD software and lab tools and stuff. So he's been with us for some time especially on the higher frequency stuff. But we'll push it. I'd say targeting around 20 watts. I'd like to get 25, but it'll maybe more of a function of how much heat we can get out outside the case on the right side panel. But of course, if it's just a heat thing, we might have people like they do for the KX3 have a side KX panel that goes on and puts a bigger fin on it or something for guys that want to do that. I don't know if we'll do that. What else we got for questions? You guys can, you don't have to do it in text too. You can just speak up if you want.
Yeah, we're wide open now. I had a question for you, Eric.
Yeah.
Are you able to record your audio, your contest audio continuously on this?
Well, it
radio?
has a sound card, so.
It's got a sound card, so we can stream it out to you guys. Certainly,
Okay.
That's intended to do that way, so you can get that record, and that includes your audio and transmit. You can get your audio and transmit and receive. We have basically a PIC processor that's acting as a digital audio processor in there to do not the sound card functionality that you're talking to, but basically manage the audio streams inside. For instance, for remote, we have to stream audio out the Ethernet port, for instance. And so it handles that both directions and then feeds it into the DSP as needed and so on.
There is a AF record and AF play buttons on the upper right corner, but
oh yeah, you can.
I'm not sure how they will work.
Yeah, well, those record off the air, and I don't know if those, we could probably have let me go to myself. I don't know if we have an option right now. I think it's just off for the internal recording. I think it's just so you want to record the person you're talking to and play it back to them.
That kind of thing is.
Well, yeah.
Or you want to listen in a loop and hear the last 30 seconds.
He wants to record 48 hours of contest on.
Yeah. I want to just not have to worry about that and on the, having a program running on the PC for it or whatever, right? I just want the radio to take care of it.
Yeah.
I have to think
It
about
takes
it.
a lot of disk space. Maybe
I have to look at how much disk
800
space we
megabytes need to compress live to MP3.
We've got a much bigger drive than that, but
like 64 gig USB sticks are basically free now. So
that's true. If you could stream it to the USB stick, there's a small matter of bandwidth. It's high speed USB inside. So
it's a USB 2.0. There aren't any 3.0 jacks.
We have internal 3 jacks, but we're not using them in 3 mode right now. But those are the 2 is plenty fast for what we're talking. 400 megabits or something on that, but
480 megabits I think is 2.0 speed.
Yeah, it's plenty. It's plenty fast for streaming that kind of level of audio.
Right now, wideband recording of the whole IF or something.
That probably wouldn't work out so well.
No, that's how this stuff got recorded. And there, even with that, we were at a fairly simplistic approach. Actually, I was using, if you remember, the what was it? The time machine boards that had the IQ stuff on it way back. The guys out of Florida did, and I've got a couple of those, and we use them for playback here too.
How will you do IQ output?
I'm sorry?
How will this do IQ
you'll have a digital IQ stream that we can put out, I believe, over the Ethernet interface. There's no analog IQ stream coming out of us, but it would have to be digital.
So N6RO wants to know, is there a future K4 SO2Rs, which would be two in one box? Two transceivers in one box, yeah.
I get a rack mount box. I think I can probably fit 2 of them in right now. It's sitting right there for you.
Yeah, SO2R in one box is a lot harder to do, where you can transmit and do full duplex receive.
Yeah, and actually it's doable, but it ends up having some limitations inside one box. Plus you have a single point failure that can get you to it. Be careful about that. But I'm not talking about we always talk about those things. I'm not talking about how far along it might be on anything like that, but it's certainly something I'm always paying attention to.
And N6RO doesn't have enough disk space for all those radios.
Well, what you do is you stick your radios in the rack and you get a couple of K4 minis. Oh, by the way, I forgot to show you guys one thing here. Now, for remote operation, this guy right now, let me switch around here. I'm going to switch to the other camera real quick here. Okay. This is not going to be in great stuff. So this guy up above, again, this is just Ethernet, SBC, same front panel, same PIC processor. The final K4, like the K3 Mini, will have audio routing and stuff out of it too. in terms of for interconnect and stuff, but also streaming it over the internet.
So the K4 Mini will be the same front panel, just not as deep.
Yeah, it'll be. Right now my SBC we use right now is taller than this panel, so I can't make it super thin. It may have to be tilted back a little bit, about 4 inches, but that might be better anyway for it standing up on a table. We haven't done mechanical design for that yet. But what I'm running here is just to show the physical stuff. So this guy is running just over Ethernet. There's nothing besides an Ethernet cable in the back and power going into it. And you'll see on both radios and at the same time, and also on the captured, the bottom guy here is the one that's being captured for your right-hand part of the display there. You can see that it's changing in real time. I can do VFOB over here. But if I do it down here too, like with my K-pods, I'm adjusting them here. By the way,
So that's how that'll remote for remote.
Yeah. So there's the K-pods, by the way.
B, and RIT.
Yeah, there they are. It's a little bit out of focus. I'm sorry about that. So that's A, B, RIT. That was just, it started out as a joke for Dick K6KR to see if I could do it. And I said, yeah, I got a little hub. I'll stick it in the back. If you run out of USB jacks, you can just put a hub into us and it'll start playing.
So Al86E, who's now KH6TU, is asking how many months, what's the ship schedule? If he were to order today, I guess, when would he get?
If you order today, you probably aren't going to get it till early summer. What's happening now is since we started shipping a little more units and people are hearing them on the air. One guy got on, he went to the Elecraft net and almost got mopped this last week. But that's the Paul on the groups.io group there, the K4 group there. By the way, there's 2 K4 groups. These are not our groups, but there's K4 Elecraft and Elecraft K4. I think Bob, the one that is the biggest one, and the main one is I think is that Elecraft K4. I think so. Anyway, look at the one that has the more people if you're ever interested in looking at that group. Of course, we're on the main Elecraft list too. So that's looking at the K4 Mini. It's the same panel. Be just like this, just that's not as deep as this and better integrated. This will be out later this year. So you'll have that. But also I've got, let me go back down here. So if you ever want to go back to that, I'm going to go back to my regular video. By the way, how are we doing for time? I don't want to put people to sleep here.
You still got 88 participants and we were at 94 or something. So you still got a lot.
And they're all awake. I have this actually was a concept originally, but it's actually become real now. And this is the actual, if you can, I gotta be careful of that little ring light that I've got there. It's gonna get picked up. I've got one of those. That's pretty good. I tilt it down. Yeah. I'll tilt it down. Usually you see it in the glasses. So this is, I don't know if you use this in a contest, but this is more for casual use. There's guys that want to be able to operate their radio with this. And this is a Surface tablet. We're doing it under Windows 10 initially because we want to be able to cover the desktop and the, but the thing is the way it's being written, it's the core of this is in Qt. I think Bill was asking me that the other day.
Yep. Well, that's a frozen screenshot, I assume.
Yeah, this is frozen. but this is actually the mock-up that Wayne did for the software guys, Scott, and a few other folks are playing with this right now.
So you'll be able to plug your K-Pod into that by USB?
That would certainly be the goal. I don't see any reason. Scott, do you see any limitation on that? I don't think that would be a problem for us.
No. Can you hold it up closer to the screen so I know what we're doing? No.
I've actually got a screen capture here, but I wasn't going to drive people crazy. But it's basically the same exact, this piece here in the middle is literally the same code snippet running that screen. I mean, what you're doing is adding buttons around the outside for the physical buttons that are on the radio here. So the idea here is that now, of course, you could have your Bluetooth headset here and be casually listening to and working sideband. And we obviously have to give you a key interface through the USB interface too on this guy.
That's going to be tough.
Nice, no, not terribly.
Paddles over the internet is tough.
No, you'd have to have something that would not have the paddle coming in here. I'm talking about you'd have to have the processing for the CW outside in a little box like a WinKey or something like that, and bringing that in here with just the closures. We'll send that as a data stream up to the radio.
Eric, been able to solve that very well, but maybe.
Well, it's the same way the remote rig boxes do. Is what I'm talking about in terms of how
they don't do it so well either.
But they do it about as good as anybody. Have you found anybody else that does it better right now? Or I don't think so.
It's a tough problem.
I mean, we can send ASCII characters and then reconstruct them at the other end. We've done that before, but.
That's how the remote rig actually does it. Is it buffers a character and then it just sends it ASCII. I do have a question for you.
It does do that now because before they were doing it, they actually would copy the fist. We can do that too, by the way.
It can do it the other way too.
No, remote rig is on off. remote rig is exclusively on-off events.
Unless
Yeah,
you
you
do
may be
win
thinking
key.
about, you may think about maybe remote hams, which actually one of our other software years, Brandon is the guy that started that and wrote all the code for it. And remote hams, not remote ham radio, the pay for one, but the free one, remote hams, is free client server software. It runs under Windows. He started out just decoding your fist with a paddle, or even a straight key, I guess, but the paddle key is better, obviously, for this, and sending an ASCII stream up to the radio and then decoding that and building it at the other end. Obviously, that's not the best way to get your CW fist, but I'm pretty sure your remote rig is maybe they added the ASCII thing, but but the main thing is they're encoding the key closure and timestamps, and then basically a variable buffer.
I thought that they could do either myself, but I could be wrong about that.
Well, there's some more questions. What about land-based amp keying? That's a new one. You want to key the amplifier through Ethernet.
Can I actually add to that a little bit, Bob? I'm interested in the overall philosophy of trying to reduce cable clutter.
Sure.
Particularly at a place like N6RO, where we can try and remove some of the wires and the incidental radiators and things that come with tying things together. Do you plan on being able to key the KPA 1500 over the LAN? Are there other things that'll be able to tap into the radio from a general computer interface? Et cetera, et cetera. I'm sure
Well,
probably.
basically, to answer your question in a broad sense, because we support the exact same command protocol over the Ethernet, to a large extent, you can get ultimately, and I'm not saying I support all right now, but all the commands that we support for rig control, logging, that interface is supported over the Ethernet just as it is over the USB or serial connector, the COM ports over USB or the physical RS-232. And again, those are all independent, but you could do that all over Ethernet right now and control the radio exactly the same way. Either we would have to supply it or somebody else's, or the logging programs would have to say, okay, and I'm not going to talk to a serial port. I want to talk to, I could use the program PuTTY on Windows. You can specify an IP address instead of talking to a COM port and talk to us that way.
I've just done, you just do telnet to the radio and send the same commands you would say over the serial port. You don't have to worry about baud rates or number of data.
It just works, and it's independent from what's going on in the serial ports if you had to have something hooked up there.
W6DMW asked that.
Hold on, Bob, before you go off, I want to answer RO's other question. Keen amplifiers, only question is, if you're doing full break-in CW, there might be an issue there.
The timing is so critical.
Yeah, timing is critical on that, so I have to look at that a little more closely. The obviously slower speed stuff, sideband stuff, it's not a problem at all.
But between an Elecraft amp and a K4 or a K3 with a 15-pin cable, you've got keying, you've got band changes. You can even have the band buttons on the amp change bands on the radio. Most people don't take advantage of that, but you can actually go direct. Yeah, when you have an amp hooked up, you just press the band button on the amp and it changes the radio. It's pretty nice.
For instance, I think I've got a 500 here. Does it do the same thing? I forget.
It will, if the cable's connected.
Yeah,
so
just
you
change
change bands by pushing the band button on the amp. You can go direct to any band you want. You don't have to tap any screens or go up, down.
You don't have to. That's another way to get there quickly with it. Well, the 1500, by the way, you do get an advantage with that aux cable, as Bob mentioned. It's got the keying built in it too, so you don't have to have an RCA cord going between the amp. Basically, it's just RF and that cable. And that one also has a more granular frequency. I think it's 1 kilohertz versus the K3 that had 8 kilohertz increments on frequencies. So the ATU in the amp and other stuff, you'd have boundary conditions. You think about it in terms of the size of the windows because they vary on the per band. And so the memory width that they cover for each ATU entry is different on each band in the 1500 or any auto tuner. There you would have to be right on the edge sometimes and have a problem of which bin do you pick. Here, because we're sending 1 kilohertz increments now, you sort of eliminate that as an issue. So that makes the two integrate much better on that. But my goal would be to try to minimize the cabling too, because you can right now, just with a USB cable and Ethernet, you would probably cover almost everything you need to do to the radio, and we can push more and more of that onto the Ethernet over time, certainly in terms of streaming audio and stuff and that to your applications.
So David, W6DMW is asking if there's commands to allow custom UI or other devices and touchscreens that would allow for external controls.
Actually, Scott, you might be able to answer this for me if you're still there. If we hook up a large screen like this that's got touch control back over USB, can that be integrated is that already automatically integrated, or do we have to scale things for the size of the screen?
We'll have to do a little bit of work to take in the touch screen coordinates for the external screen and so forth. Much like if you were using, say, Windows and put in an external screen. But certainly, you know, we're using pretty much standard Linux. If the drivers are already there, if someone's savvy and using Ubuntu or whatever, if it's working there, there's a reasonable chance we'll be able to work on it, depending on what else other development we have going on.
That's a small matter of programming, but in the sense that we've got these guys buried, and Scott knows the feeling, getting this stuff, because obviously we want to cover everything we've already committed to before we go too far on that. But I'd like to see that too. Some people want, though I think a big screen, you might have a smaller one that is more comfortable for you.
So Chris is again asking about an API for third-party applications. You mean beyond the command set that lets you control the radio? You want to get something else like display?
So like if you wanted to do something yourself and pull the pan adapter down and put it in your app that you wrote or whatever. Are there plans?
We actually might work with you on that, depending what you're doing with it, because the pan adapter portion of it itself is fairly self-contained, and that UI. That's actually what's running here. Is if you think about that, we have a K-serve, which Brandon KG6YPI I told you he was sort of the main guy behind that. And the UI CUI, I have 2 versions of it running right now. I could have a third on the tablet if I was running that way. Actually, a demo to show where I just had that compiled under Linux on a tablet once, and I had that and this controlling one radio. So I had 3 different displays all going at once in control at Dayton. We'd work with people there. We're not going to give people a way to get inside the radio. That's just unfortunately a disaster for us from a support standpoint. And it would be something that was unsupportable. It would be not just unsupportable, but it would be, well, overwhelm us.
No, that would be a mess. Yeah.
But an API standpoint, I'm not going to let you rearrange the screen in here. I think that's going to be too difficult for us to support right now. Doing stuff external, there's a large amount of access, and we'll give you more over time here as we develop it.
That's sort of where I was going with it.
Stuff. If you want to build your
like
own
a Windows app or something like
Chris,
that.
are you looking for like an IQ stream getting shot out over Ethernet to you?
Well, not necessarily. I'm more asking the question generally, you know, to see, you know, what kind of access will be allowed for people to build apps and grab information, you know, by a published API, you know, this function.
What's your equivalent to FlexLib if you look at what kind of API like a Flex has?
Sure, you'll see us evolve some of that stuff that direction. I mean, right now we've got an internal protocol that does the dB per bin data for the pan adapter, for instance, for VFOA, VFOB. That will be, is the ooh there? But basically you can take that and stream that, and that's about the lowest bandwidth data we can give you right now. But it will not be, it'll be a little bit cleaner from what the internal format is right now. Obviously that's just tight for these guys to talk to each other. But Brandon's cleaning that up right now to make it easier for you guys to pick that up and plug it into an M1MM or whatever he wants to do, for instance, and the other guy.
So somebody asked a question that I actually had, but I had the reverse of it. So we'll ask it both ways. Can a K40 control a K3S or K3 over a remote rig, or is the reverse true?
No. The K3, the reason the K30 worked out so easily, and this does too, in terms of the K4, is you're going to the same mapping of controls and everything exactly on each side. And you don't have that with the K30 trying to control this. And you might be able, you know, conceivably to make it work. You may have to put some software in between it to talk to the K4 for VFO and basic frequency display, things like that. But for us, that would be a rabbit hole we probably can't go down. It's just too much work for us to try to make those talk. People used to want to do the same thing with it, and Wayne made the mistake of saying, "Oh yeah, we might be able to do that," and then everybody thought we were going to was the KX3 controlling a K3. Same problem. They don't map exactly. We literally, simplicity itself, and the buttons are all the same. It's a much easier software task than if the thing is looking at it very different.
Some are POTS and some are digital encoders, and it just doesn't match.
Well, it's not just, it's very different. And of course you've got the touch screen here, which has some controls on it that, don't even exist on the K3. So
what bandwidth would be needed for remote operation? I think it depends if you want to see the whole waterfall or not, I suppose.
No, because that's all built from the same data. We're not sending a graphic of this.
I mean,
at
like
all.
internet upload speed required.
Yeah, if you're seeing the spectrum, you've got the data for the waterfall. Is what I'm trying to say too. They're both. If you're looking at in that same window, every time you draw this guy up, I'm pointing the wrong screen. I was pointing at the one I'm watching you guys with. If you look at this guy, every time we draw one of these, it's drawing a single line on here and then pushing the other ones down. That's all. All that drawing's being done at the destination, not over the internet. We're passing you the raw data for that thing. Okay, at this dot, the strength is this high. Then we draw the whole graphic that you see here. That's what's going on in our system. Where it's talking. This radio is talking basically to this guy, and it could be to a tablet like we've done in the past. With taking the same UI, and the tablet and the external K4 Mini, if you want to call it, their UI is building that display just like we build it real time in here. So from a bandwidth standpoint, you're not like shipping video over the internet. You're shipping the core data, which is at lower rate, still going to be in the 1 to 2 megabit range certainly, but it may be a little bit higher than that. But I don't think everything you'd have to do now. If you're trying to keep track of a whole bunch of data outside the window for the waterfall as you scroll, I know like what Flex does on theirs, that's something that you may have to pare down if you've got a limited bandwidth situation. But inside the window, if you've got the spectrum, you've got everything to build the waterfall without more bandwidth inside that window.
But the horizontal resolution is actually fixed, or is it downsampling it if you zoom out or in, or?
We changed the resolution. I think we basically, every time you double resolution, so if you have 22, 44, or what it works out to, it's 98, 196, 384. Each one of those boundaries as you go between those, we downsample slightly differently. But I mean, it steps it down. You're getting more, you're getting a finer resolution per pixel, obviously, as you reduce the span.
Did you support a 4K monitor? Would add 4K?
4K, I'm not sure if it supports it at 60 hertz or 30 hertz. To be honest, we're refreshing on these guys at roughly around 30 hertz anyway, so I don't think that would make much difference. I know we can plug some 4K monitors into it, and I've tried it, and we've had people try it, except not me, and it does display on them.
Can you change the FFT waterfall and frame rate? Because that's one other trick that Flex likes to do to slow the bandwidth, is they just, they'll halve the update rate of that thing, and then it goes, it halves the bandwidth. Which
I wonder about that, because if you're only, are you saying if you're only watching waterfall, or are you watching spectrum at the same time?
Well, it's spectrum and waterfall, but I don't update it as frequently, so I don't have to send a line as frequently over the wire.
Yeah, it has pretty dramatic impact.
Yeah, so I understand that. Yeah. So you're saying you actually slow down the spectrum and the waterfall is what you're saying, not just the waterfall.
Yeah,
when you said just the waterfall, I was not grokking that, because they're tied together, obviously, in terms of they're using the same.
Right. No, the whole thing.
We could certainly give you every other or every third, or we can slow that down. I mean, it's not in the current software because I haven't had time to put it in there, but that's not a complicated thing to add.
I think there's a waterfall speed setting now, though, right?
I'm not sure if there is or not.
I forgot, actually.
I don't think I have a speed setting.
There's averaging. There's
averaging, which does slow it down. So if I go to average here, and you can watch this, this will definitely slow things down. Actually, I turned peak on there. What did I do? I turned peak on. If I go over to this tap average, I can crank that up, that slows everything way down. But that averaging is, let me think about this for a second. I think that's, Scott, is that taking place at the UI end? I think it is right now, right?
It's placing it, at the UI. It's still updating at roughly 30 times a second, but we're seeing the average over whatever period, whatever number of samples.
But that said, we could certainly slow it down. What you would be doing there is having us on the sending end, either averaging or just
sampling.
Just sampling at a slower rate. Yeah, basically say just give me every, like downsampling. So basically, give me every other, give me every fourth, every eighth pixel, not pixel, but every eighth sample, frame rate, and keep that, or maybe average them all together, so that when you get there, you got an average of all those guys, so you don't lose it in the waterfall. We can give you either way. That's not a terribly tough thing to implement.
You're doing good.
You want to see how fast we are when I turn off averaging totally?
There you go.
Actually, I don't think Zoom is doing it.
Yeah, you're making Zoom work there a little bit hard.
I'll slow it down. Yeah, usually I always run about averaging at 3 to 4, because I just find it's too fast for me otherwise. But So that's an average of 3 right there.
So it shows how fast the processor is.
Yeah,
Well,
no, we're not processor limited on this. That's a nice feeling to have.
W6XU said he's writing his letter to Santa Claus as we speak. So he's very happy with what he saw.
That's my other name is Santa Claus. So you can send it care of. But no. But anyway, getting back in terms of orders, we're trying to ramp it up. We've got a huge backlog, of course. But that said, my goal is to get that caught up in the early summer time frame.
Is it going to be a kit version? Someone else?
I'm sorry.
Is it going to be a kit version?
Yes, that's the goal. We usually start that after we've been in production at a regular volume, which we're getting closer to for a while, so that we have found all the weird little things that come up when you build it as a built radio that we want to smooth out for the kit builders, either by making small changes in the design or by making it just different documentation so it's clear what they're doing. We can see where they might get confused. You never find that out until you've built a bunch of them over and over, and then you find this kind of stuff. We found this in the K3 and all the other products we put into the kits. But the goal is to get it to a modular kit also. It's, there's no soldering involved in this because this surface mount stuff is just horrendous to make a kit out of because a lot of it's not even marked these days. It's on a tape and reel with a mark when it gets stuff on the board. But you can imagine a poor builder trying to keep track of the parts and they spill them on the floor, and you can't, all the surface mount caps now are mixed up and there's no markings on them. But having the boards pre-assembled and tested, of course, makes it work better. And also people feel like they know more about how the radio works, which is nice too.
That's a hardware kit,
yes,
right?
But not right away. Yeah.
That's a hardware kit only, not like software, right?
Oh yeah, not a software kit. It's not an open source. You can go in and modify everything in the radio. It's pretty locked down that way because that would be, God, it'd be scary. It would,
but you can do a lot of stuff with host commands that you couldn't do in a K3.
Yeah.
Like
Absolutely.
You can toggle. I've been giving them a lot of suggestions, like toggling RT on and off instead of having to do explicit RT1, RT0. You can just do RT/ and it toggles it the opposite.
Yeah.
Makes
we've
the
been pretty
software
good
a
at
lot
taking
easier.
input on that. And by the way, one thing that's unique about us, I think, is that we take a lot of input from people and try to get it into the product. And we'll never get everything. I mean, it's a cacophony of
Amen.
But you never will. We never get the product out if we did that too. So we sort of cut the line to get the thing out the door, because then we're going to find out really what people also want us to add to it. A good example is the remote control area, or in the, like you're talking about customizing an external display. We certainly could go that direction. I'm not going to overpromise anything right now, but
is that
certainly supports it.
Is that a P4 speaker behind the knobs there? Is that
that's a K4 speaker.
K4 speaker, I mean.
That's a K3 over here. I've got another K4 there. I just happen to have.
K4 speaker any different than the K3 speaker?
No, it's the same design. It's a slightly larger case. It's the same acoustical, balanced, and damped. You got the damping strips on the side of the case. It's a steel case. Because
and it'll support stereo the same and all that.
It supports stereo the same way as the SP3s. Yeah, I mean, you put SP3s or 4s on it. We don't care. But
so when you go ahead and do your remote stuff, are you going to allow more than one client at the same time?
I will do that as long as there's a bandwidth support for it. Obviously, we'll have our limits too in terms of how many. But I've already done that. I mean, that's what I'm saying is that I've run it with.
Oh yeah, true. You've got several of them running there, but
well, what I had is I had this exact same Surface tablet running. What was the operation? Unix in a box. I forget what's the
VirtualBox.
VirtualBox running in VirtualBox running in Ubuntu, which isn't even the version that we're running of Linux. But we Brandon compiled a version of the UI CUI. Again, that's this screen that you're seeing here. And he had that running in that. And we had a connector set up to where, in this case, we're on the same network. So we'd just go out and find the radio. And it would say, hey, I want to have another UI. And his caser says, oh, no problem. Here, take my data. Here it comes. And then it's going, and you're getting at the internal radio. And of course, we had a physical K4 doing exactly the same thing. That's how I hooked this up here. Actually, now we have a dialogue he gave me where I can type in the IP address if I want to. Because I'm doing some testing remotely, just looking at the bandwidth constraints and stuff. And that it support. That's the whole architecture. The whole client server architecture internally is set up so you can be talking to it externally over the other interfaces. And it pretty much says, yeah, I'm happy with that up to a point. Obviously, when we wouldn't do everything over RS-232 or something like that. But
having an Ethernet interface is a huge step up. So many huge step ups over the K3 in this. The HDMI monitor support, the speed, the waterfall, the remoting. there's a lot of improvements over the K3.
Also, and also the field testers and Bob and the other guys that have been part of that have given us a lot of great feedback from, I think Rick, is Rick still here? Rick Taven's out there somewhere listening, I think. But those Ed Munns and a number of other guys have helped us on this, and we're still, we'll be talking to a lot of customers over time here too. And
K6KR was in NCCC. I don't think he's on here tonight. What is he working on it still?
Who, K6KR, Dick?
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, Dick's, I didn't show you guys one of the things that Dick's done for us is this little thing here. If you go into we have function buttons that you can program. I just push the function button down here. But in addition to user definable functions, which are like the macros on the K3, ultimately you'll be able to do on here. We have a screen capture command. Oops, stuff.
You have to have a flash drive.
No flash drive hooked up, but you can capture to a flash drive right now with a screen capture if you want to show your friends something. But the button over here, we have a software list. You just tap it, and that'll tell you what's in the radio right now. That's our granular, all the low-level stuff also. But KUI is the user interface. CUI version 1101. KServe is 1211. CUP 392. But you don't have to pay attention at that level. We just give you a whole package, just like updating your Apple iPad, for instance, your Apple iPhone. So if I go back out of this, you go back in here and hold it for the update program. And what's cool about this is that you can just check for updates and see if there's anything new. I don't think there's anything new right now. I'm up to date. So if you notice that, I just hit that. I can also see release notes, which are internal release notes here. Actually, I think it's just some of the new stuff we've been working on. And if I hit install, if there was something to install, it would do it. But what's also cool is that as a user, you're going to see more options here.
Check out
the customer can see production release. They can see previous production release. They can see beta release, which we used to make you go to the website and download a zip file. So if you want to be a beta tester, and you're willing to have to reload your radio if something goes wrong with the previous release, you can do that. Ultimately, you'll be able also to load from a USB drive. So if you don't have Ethernet hooked up to your computer, and by the way, what I use in my lab bench where there's no Ethernet cables, I've got one of these little, less than $100, $80, $60, probably some Chinese ones are $20 extenders. I don't use the extender function, but it has also an Ethernet jack on the bottom. I just plug this in over there, run an Ethernet cable in my radio, and I do all the updates on it. So if you only have Wi-Fi in your house, you can easily get Ethernet into the radio this way. There's a number of other dongles you can plug into the Ethernet jacks too that'll do that for you.
One thing to show if you want is if you hit details, there's a backup and restore button also.
Yeah, I'll show you that in just a second, though I don't think that's fully fleshed out. Dick's actually working on it with, I think, Scott and company defining what that's going to look like. But my point here is I could say, I just want to look at the previous production release and go to that. And I would hit up to install and go do that and back up if I didn't like what I just put on there. You could bring it up for a USB drive. If you're internal, and these radios have a secret way and then it's not something you can hack easily. I'm sure someone could probably figure it out someday, but we make it pretty obtuse how you get into it. But you can, if this radio is enabled as a developer radio, we can see actually two different levels. So what the group Bob is in is field test release. So the field testers can get that before you guys would see it normally. And they can also, I can get, as a developer, I can get the nightly release. Now that one's guaranteed to crash your radio sometimes, so you gotta be really careful. Nightly releases are literally what's on the SVN server right now that's been packaged as a release. It's not, it's usually packaged as a release so we can do some testing with it, but it would be not something we would send to the outside world. We might send it to a couple of field testers. I know Bob's been known to get some of those sometimes. But he likes to live dangerously. But they're pretty good. I load them up all the times. I'm looking for the latest stuff because we have automated test software that we use to exercise the radios, run sensitivity in all bands, to transmit power test in all bands, two-tone testing, you name it, that runs on a PC. And as our guy that develops that for us runs, we add features to support what he needs for us to do it that allow us to drill down and look at individual things on boards that we would never be able to look at normally through a user interface. But we may build that into a new release for the front panel or the RF board, or we have little processors on most of the boards to do this stuff, even debug monitors that are accessible to those. And we can drill down to those, to these interfaces. But that said, that would be just if you're a developer radio. You're not going to get that if you're something else. And and there's some tricks that wouldn't stay a developer radio unless you knew how to keep it alive, and it wouldn't if you got a hold of one. But that said, you can basically, hey, I want the latest production release. Check it just like this new software, and it'll say, here we go again. It'll update here. I think I scrolled it off here at the screen. By the way, you can just drag up and down too. It's all touch sensitive there. Yeah, it just says you're up to date still.
Hey, Eric.
We give it, go ahead.
Are you planning on any paid upgrades or features?
Am I going to charge for upgrades and software you're saying? Not
or
right
even
now.
partial feature upgrades or anything like that?
I generally haven't had that in, I never say never down the road, but to be honest, in the near term, in the next year or whatever, pick a number.
What did Flex
I'm
do
not
to people?
planning on
It
charging.
made them pay $100 to get the new software at some point.
Every major release, yeah.
Flex
The
makes
minor
it-
releases, no.
They usually add a major feature, like when they added their remote feature, they charged an upgrade for that type of thing.
As you guys, software isn't free. I mean, in fact, that's our biggest engineering development labor cost is software. That said, certainly we in the K3 we never charged for it.
Nope.
We may have features we add in the future that we think are so substantial that we couldn't do them unless we charged for them. If I do an app like this externally, it's probably going to get charged for. It's not going to be a horrendously expensive thing, but that not for getting updates to it, but for buying the initial app on the tablet or wherever it goes on. For instance, we'd like to do these on iOS and other stuff, and we're going to work with outside developers. So if you guys are iOS developers, we'd be glad to work with you, for instance, on stuff for remotes and give you inside access to things like that in terms of the UI and stuff, or how to build it, and so you can build your own UI. But relative to just the basic updates, adding just basic features over time to the radio that we're selling new radios with every day, I have a hard time charging for that unless it's something really a big deal. But that said, I'll never say never, because at some point I understand what they go through on that. It's not totally unreasonable, because people think software is free, and you can kill yourself if you're not covering the cost of your engineers to develop that. So you've either got to be selling more radios as a result. That's been our approach, is we felt it helped our radio sales. And if that's justifiable, then I'm not going to charge you guys for it. But if I find that down the road is some stuff that's more fringe stuff, but is a desired feature for some people, I might have to charge for it. But I don't see that jumping out at me right now. You'll see most of the cool stuff. We want it to be cool for quite a while, so that usually means we're not going to charge for it near term. Near term's certainly more than a year or more.
So I had a question. The RF gain control, what stage or stages is being controlled?
Pretty much, I just got out of this here. Hold on a second. I may have confused the radio because I think it's
when you update it, it reboots. So it's okay.
Yeah, I know. There we go. I'm alive again. No, I knew that. If I'd actually had downloaded code that updates firmware or the core software in the radio, we actually will shut down the radio if you want to go to a whole cold reboot. And then in that one, you hit the power button to bring it back up, because even the front panel, which controls the power sequencing in here, if it's got new stuff, you want it all to go down and then have you bring it back up. So we do a clean start after that. We used to not do that and get some surprises sometimes, and this works a lot better. What was the other question? I'm sorry.
The RF gain knob, what does it do?
Okay, now there's no analog RF gain stages, because there really isn't a lot to using the RF gain there. You do have attenuator stages that you can kick in with 3 dB, I think it's 3 dB of resolution over quite a wide range. So that is in the receive chain. So you want to kick those in. Right now they aren't controlled by the RF knob. It would be on the attenuator menu, but we could conceivably, I'm just thinking out loud, tie that in so you could switch through those also if you needed to have the additional gain reduction in the front end. But generally, you've got switchable preamps, switchable attenuators in the front end for analog gain control. And then because there's really no mixer, it's all going directly into the A to D converter. If you're finding that you still need to cut it back, then you would use the attenuators and things like that. But most of the RF gain actually is happening at the DSP level in terms of what we call RF.
Do you want to demo the attenuator menu? It's actually quite a big range.
Yeah, let's see. Refresh my memory where it is. I haven't used it on that. Since they changed the menu on me, so I haven't looked at it.
Yeah, I have to see your screen. You tap attenuator, or main RX attenuator.
Oh, of course, yeah, okay. So there, and then I can go basically, I think he's limiting it at 21 right now. It seems less than he can do. I think he can do a lot more than that if he wants.
9 dB, you can rotate the 21 max. Okay, yeah, but in 3 dB steps.
But I happen to know there's another 20 dB attenuator in line there they can kick in. I'm not quite sure. That's just on the.
Well, it says attenuator is off, so.
Yeah. Oh well. Oh, that.
There you go.
Now I can hear you probably can't hear, but I can hear the relays.
Oh yeah, we can hear it. We can hear it.
So those are actual resistor attenuators right at the front end?
You got it. Yes.
Okay, good. Thanks.
Yeah, we're trying to minimize things that can be overlooked.
You know, you never want to run a K3, almost never, with the RF gain cranked all the way up. It distorts something in the audio. But if you, and this radio I've been running with like, it's M.RF0 means, you know, basically RF gain all the way up. And I have almost never needed to back it off like he's doing now. So
it might be like if you're casually listening to a swap net or something like that, and you want to have a little bit less background noise, and all the guys are pretty strong, that'll help you there. But that's yeah, I find that it's much more pleasant to listen to just than any of the other radios I've used recently.
the audio is
Not
a
just ours.
main improvement.
Yeah, I think I don't know if you made the comment to us, but we got it from, certainly maybe you did, but several of the field testers commented after using it in contests that their fatigue factor was a lot lower. I think XX mentioned that. He actually was, Bob is of course an engineer for us, but also has been of course always a field tester with his, when he had his station still up on the hill, and hopefully when he builds the new one too. But he's done a lot of operating with all of our products over the years, and his comment, the first comment he made when he first used a K4, is that after using the contest, his fatigue factor was a lot lower. So that made us feel real good. That means we were actually accomplishing what we wanted to do with this, and that gives you a feel of. I think you guys have mentioned that too. I think Bob, right after using it.
Yeah, it's very pleasant on the ears. Yeah, definitely.
So
and the QSK has also been improving quite a bit, and
it'll keep getting better too. Bob is, of course, if you know about TV Bob well enough, he's I know the first thing you made an impression on me, Bob, years ago when we had the K2 is that you were telling us that I think our side tone balance was different than our on the air balance in terms of weighting. You had picked up on that with your ear and noticed it was just slightly different.
You know, the K2, the pure analog, is one of the nicest sounding CW notes I've ever heard.
Yeah. Well, we tried to use, well, actually that one is, the K2, the K2 is on receive, you're talking, or transmit?
Just receive.
Yeah, that's nice. That's a sweet sounding thing too. I agree. We still sell that. It's as long as we can get parts. I may start having problems because I think I heard one of our parts we may have to design around if we're going to keep it going down the road. That we got a bunch of them in stock. But
so Cal AI6MC has an interesting question. Are the models of K4 geared to different levels of operator?
That's a good question. Well, the core radio.
There's a simple mode and a
well, the core. I mean, well, you're talking about in terms of the K4 to K4D and K4 HD sequencing.
I just basically, is there a way to use the K4 for entry level operator? I guess.
Oh yeah, well I would say the basic K4 is going to give you 2 receivers. You're pretty much going to use them on the same band in most cases, though. If you want to route one of them to, can you do that? No, actually they would both have to be on the same antenna. If you want to have them on different bands, you'd have to route them to one of the receive antenna ports that doesn't go through your transmit path. So that'd be a separate antenna. That's a multi-band antenna. And you'd have to turn off the bandpass filters. So you lose that extra front end protection. Though for a lot of people, like I live in Aptos, and there's very few people that would be loud enough to cause me a problem, because I've tried it in this area.
He was basically saying he's a new op and he's just learning radio.
So you could start with the basic radio, because basic radio, you're going to get 2 band adapters that you can use them on the same band just off your transmit antenna. It's super easy with all the filtering we've got in front of them too. And it keeps it much more simple for you to use. You don't have to worry about, what do I do with 2 antenna bands and 2 antennas? How am I going to configure this? That makes it a little simpler for you. It actually, I've got a lot of people that are buying them that way. They're not terribly, we sell the whole range of hams. I consider the contesters and the Xers, and probably especially the contesters, the sort of leading edge and opinion type people in terms of getting the word out to people when we have a good product. And if we have a bad product, it can get out that way too. So we have to make sure we do a good job. But that then drives even a higher volume of sales outside of the contest or DXing community to buy the products. And a lot of them, we get brand new hams that, certainly it's not a cheap radio, so that they can afford it and purchase it. We've got a whole spectrum. And we have people that are rag chewers that love it just for that purpose. That's all they do.
What, Bill, this is a tough question. Gary asked, what is the boot up time from cold start? And
from cold start right now, I think it's around 15 seconds. It'll be faster. We're working on standby mode. It'll even be faster than that. If you've got keep power applied to it, it'll not drain much current, but it'll pop up faster. But right now, I think it's about that. We may drive that faster than that, but that's the I think the worst case. 50, call it 15 to 18. I think it's around 15, but there may be some optimization we can do because we've been focused on other areas lately. We haven't gone back and looked at that to squeeze it a bit.
We're hearing some noise in the background. Is that your receiver?
Let me turn that down. Sorry.
Oh, okay. Well, I think we're almost out of questions.
Well, I wore you guys out. Okay.
There's still 60 participants. So.
Well, are they all awake is the question. But, no, great. Well, I enjoyed talking to you guys here. This is, I mean, it was, I like doing Q&As better than anything else. I don't want to bore you with slides for an hour. You know, that
was good. Everyone who left early said, got to go, but I really enjoyed the presentation. So
good. Okay. Well, hopefully it's helpful to you guys. And I know a lot of you have already ordered K4s, and we want to keep you up to speed. And I'm working hard to get them out to you guys.
And if you
Bob,
do
as a side to you, by the way, Bob, give me a call about the Rev A stuff because I think I've got stuff ready for you.
I'll be there tomorrow.
So hey, Eric, how far out is the HD option? And I mean, way further away.
Oh no, I think it's gonna be this year. And I think somebody in sales took it upon themselves to say end of this year. I think they're just being really careful. I think we'll beat that.
Okay.
It's really the same front end architecture with obviously some improvements that we've used for years on the K3. You know, what that really is going to buy you is more than anything else, another 10 or 15 dB in blocking dynamic range above what you can get with just going raw into the A to Ds. That's not really a factor for adjacent band issues. It's mostly if you've got multiple stations very loud inside the same band, very close to each other, that have almost no isolation at all from their antennas from each other is the big issue. If you have somebody 20 feet away from you, it's gonna be tough no matter what for any radio. But having that additional blocking in extreme cases, it's usually the field day case because they're less controlled than anybody else because they'll have people in the same band. The expeditions are less of an issue usually for us that way. But
when are you going to send one to Rob Sherwood?
We don't send him one.
Okay. Oh,
he
yeah, it's true.
Usually
he gets it on his own.
Yeah, and ARRL orders it, but it's not always obvious to us that they're ordering it. They'll talk to us about it when they get it, because they'll always have questions. Their policy, they're very good, by the way, about this. So they do an honest review. They basically, if they find problems on any radio, not just us, but anybody, let's go back to the K2, they will let you know about it or question us if they see something that just looks like it's not performing the way you think it should. And if we fix it, they'll review it with the fix, but they'll also note that they found the problem and we fixed it. And that, we offer upgrades to people if they have it in their radio. And that's an improvement we could have made because you get out there, there's always stuff people find on any radio that we make mod kits available, things like that. Because no matter how hard you try, when you start selling to thousands of people instead of less than 100 field tester type stuff or 50 field, whatever the number is, you're going to, little things will pop up. But we obviously have been building radios a long time, so we do a lot of testing on it ahead of time too, both in the lab, our engineering, and then also the field test groups we have. And then we let people, that's what we have beta test versions of our software that go out that people can optionally load, that they let people get excited at doing that. They get the latest features and get to play with it. And it's a minor risk because we've usually beat it up to the point where we know it's not going to hurt the radio or anything, but then we give them a way to back it up with this update software. So that'll be cool too.
Hey, Eric, a quick K3 related question.
Sure.
Since you guys are shifting gears to the K4, and obviously we understand the supply issues with that, and I know that people are having trouble sourcing parts for their K3s.
Are you talking about the add-on? Are you talking about the boards and add-on modules?
Yeah. Well, what I was really going to ask you is, I've got obviously we've got a contest shack filled with K3s, right?
Oh, sure.
Some of them are in very, very bad need of repair or refit.
Right.
Are you still taking K3s in for repair?
Yeah. We go down to rather than quickly swapping boards, we're going down to component level more often. But that said, we are still going to do we're doing another whole run of a lot of the add-on boards, the IO boards that people blow up on lightning hits, like the KIO 3B board that has the USB stuff on it. that's a path in usually when the computer and the radio are at a different potential because you get a ground bounce or whatever it is that during a nearby lightning strike. That's where people get zapped sometimes, even if they disconnected their antennas in some parts of the U.S. Not so much out here on the West Coast, except like we saw this summer, it might have been an issue. But we're doing several $100,000 of material that we're just getting ready to go through a production run on to even, we're going to do some more P3 pan adapters. We had put out a request from people, and you could still contact us and say, hey, I'd like to get on this list. That said, if we make these available, it might be a little bit more expensive because it'll be a limited run versus a long-term high quantity run. Would you be interested? And we only pay like a deposit up front. And people said, yeah. We got way more people than we expected. So P3 pan adapters, SVGA adapters, transmit monitors, and
DVR3s.
DVR3s. I think there's a bunch of those people want to buy. The I/O boards, various upgrades on the radio, even some sub receivers, a bunch of those too. And there's some limitations there in terms of custom the sheet metal and stuff. So we have minimum runs on those, but it looks like we're going to be able to do a significant batch of all those. We'll probably cover most of what you're worried about that you blow up on a radio. Things like PAs, 100 watt PAs, those are easily repairable down to the component level. They're pretty basic circuitry. So we may make some for people that still want to upgrade their radios, or maybe for whatever reason they don't have a PA. That's a very small number of those are sold. Ultimately, all the 10 watt ones we still get upgraded. It seems to 100 watts over time. So, and even there, it's a small percentage of what we sell. Does that answer your question? It's not going away.
Yeah. Thanks. Yeah, we're going to.
We did have. I mean, the whole COVID thing that threw a whole wrench into it. We planned to do this earlier, and then all of a sudden we went into lockdown mode, saying, "Hey, we got to financially stay healthy. That's the most important thing. We don't want to overextend ourselves. We want to make sure we get the K4 done. So those are all critical. We want to keep selling all of our other products, and we are. We're selling, of course, KPA 1500, 500, the 100 watt amps, the KX2, KX3. Those aren't going away. Matter of fact, I was surprised. Even like new ICOM 705, I thought was going to impact the KX3 more than it did. And the orders are still staying relatively strong for that. And the KX2s that were niched by themselves. Nobody's touched that one in a long time. So.
Don't connect a 705 to an amplifier. It's got a PTT tail problem. Same one they had It might blow up a couple of Elecraft amplifiers with the 705. Actually,
we usually protect ourselves if you've got PTT sequencing it's hosed up. But we're pretty careful about that because we run into ICOMs before like that.
Right.
But and other amps, other radios. But anyway, getting back to it, we held off doing this longer than I wanted to, but we did it out of waiting until we saw everything stabilize. We're in a good cash situation now, so we feel comfortable going out and getting those built. So, and we're of course building K4s and other radios at the same time.
Eric, are you going to have the kit version available?
Yeah, somebody asked that earlier, and I said yes. I just don't know the exact timing because I want to get ramped up. We have to write a whole manual for that, and that's probably the biggest factor of work. That's a lot of work.
Yeah, I believe so.
Yeah, at the end of the day, kit versions of the radios aren't that much cheaper for us to build. We have to test all the boards the same way. The small amount that we save is generally in the final assembly time, but not a whole bunch because we have to kit it and get it into a box in a way that you can take it out and put everything together. It's more handling. In other words, you think about it, the boards are actually in some ways handled more when you go into a kit in terms of giving you a clean kit to build from. The manual work and the support on that. And then on top of that, we have to test every single board. That's exactly the same, our whole process. Boards are all tested, and then you fork into getting assembled in the assembly area, or they get kitted into a kit. At the end of the day, the only area we really save on is some of the assembly time and the final production test and burn-in time at the finished level, which means you save several $100. You're not going to save thousands of dollars on it with a kit. So it's not so much of a big money saver. You will save some, but is obviously the people just enjoy building stuff. That's how I got started, was building Heath kits. And as a kid, I was saving some money, but if you think about it, not as much as you'd think.
Yeah, there was a big difference with the Heath kit. So no, but I did all my K3 and everything. So I just because you know the radio better if you build it up so at that moment you know it a lot better.
Yeah, I know that voice there. You've got a few of our goodies here. Well, good. So anything else? I seem to be hanging in there. I'll stay as long as you guys want, but if you got to wrap it up, let's go ahead and do that too. So.
Hey, Eric, it's Mark, W6IA. One more question. Last year, there was some indication that you as a company might actually sell refurbished K3s. Is that part following on to the earlier question?
When they come available, not that we don't take any in on trade-in or anything, that would be just too much work for us right now. But for instance, I know I've got, I think, a few DXpedition ones that came back late that we have in stock. I'm about to double check and see if they've sold them all. We may have a few demo units from trade shows and stuff that may get, I think we've actually put those together so they could be sold. They're in various, I don't think they're at the point where we're going to put them on the web quite yet, but I think there will be some radios from time to time that show up. But the K3 at this point, it's not economical to go back and build large runs of it. The volume is just not going to be there and compared to what we're doing on K4 and the other stuff.
Thanks.
So it would price it out of your market if we did, charged you what it would cost to build it in small runs.
Right. Thank you.
Super job, Eric.
Yeah,
Awesome.
great job. Thanks. We're sort of closing on 2 hours, so.
My voice is still working and my power bars have been sustaining me, but that's about it. I'm going to go get some dinner upstairs, I think. I enjoyed talking to you guys here.
Yeah, we really appreciate the attitude and the approach of the company, and so you have a lot of fans.
Thanks very much. Yeah, absolutely. And tell your friends, and obviously as we get more K4s out there, let us know more things you want to see. And again, it'll be overwhelming for us at first. Like we get a lot of input. I want, what's most important first, but most important thing for us is to get the core radio out and then keep adding the features quickly to it. And obviously I like operating remote. I had a lot of the demos used to see me do at shows as remoting my station here. So I think I worked more DX in the past remote on the road while I was demoing it to people than I ever had time to work it at home in the company. So you'll see that get refined pretty quickly here. So, but yeah, thanks a lot. It's still fun for us. I'm so amazed that it's past 20 years now, but there you go.